Go ahead and get started with this, the Okeechobee Utility Authority meeting for June 20th, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this morning we've got Mr. Mollenhauer.
Present.
We've got Mr. Nelson.
Present.
Mrs. Trent.
Here.
Myself. Mr. Snyder is absent, and along with John. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The one thing that we have this morning is something we're kind of excited about. We have a little back history here. She stepped down to make room for someone else, and that someone else lives outside of our area. Service area. And John, you can speak. Tim wasn't willing to make the changes.
That was my understanding. Mr. Stanley said that the county, Glades County, was not willing to change the service area boundary at this time.
So that eliminated who you stepped aside for. And it looks like you'd like to come back and join us. To me, I'm a yes, and what's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the application, Ms. Melanie Anderson, with great pleasure. I'll second that.
I have a motion by Mr. Nelson, a second by Mr. Mollenhauer. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Please join us.
Thank you.
Come on up.
Please.
Official today. Where you want me?
Well, you always sit by Harry.
No, she'd never sit by me.
He's on the way here. Thank you for coming back. I mean, it's, your knowledge and experience is yeah.
Thank you.
So, and we were hoping that we had someone that could come in, but it just didn't work out. And things happen.
And she replaced herself. I think that's good.
She wants us a little vacation.
Yeah, well, I kept my eye on you guys.
Oh, Lord. That means I'm going to get chewed out after.
Probably.
Agenda item number 3, additions or deletions.
Mr. Chairman, there is one addition we'd like the board to consider. We got a Kimley Horn invoice in for Treasure Island. And we'd just like to add that with the one that you're already considering this morning under another agenda item. So we would just like to add that in to that agenda item. It's a Kimley Horn invoice for Treasure Island. Motion and a second. You need approval.
Need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mrs. Trent.
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelson. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Harry, you had something?
I'll bring it up during board.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 4, meeting minutes.
Well, for clarification, you might now get approval of the agenda as amended.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion
Se-
to accept the agenda as presented with the amendment.
Have a motion by Mrs. Trent,
Second.
second by Mr. Nelson. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now moving on to number 4. Meeting minutes. Anybody have any additions or deletions or changes or?
Yeah. did not vote no on the agenda item number 18.
Steve that voted out.
That's correct.
So we need to fix that. Also, when I heard that.
Okay. All right. Any more changes, or?
I move that the minutes be accepted as amended.
Have a motion by Mr. Mullenhour,
Second.
second by Mr. Nelson. Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. So motion carries. Moving on to department supervisor updates. Mr. Gamantia, we'll start with you. I like picking on you first.
I'm sure he appreciates that.
Got a question. What's all this water do to you, and did you get all this water last night?
A lot of it'll get there eventually. We usually don't see it, for some time, depending on where the heavy stuff falls, it takes a little bit.
Y'all didn't get the 3.5 inches last night?
We might, I don't know how much we
You
got
got
on
it?
site,
Yeah.
but that just.
A lot.
Our ditches and areas and stuff like that.
A lot.
They get out there.
I live, yes, a lot.
But with that, it fills up your ditches and stuff like that, and you just send it on to the Grove, or what happens to it?
No, that goes out through the perimeter ditch.
Okay.
Eventually makes its way up to Taylor Creek.
Taylor Creek?
To Nevins Slough.
There is a perimeter ditch around the property, so all the surface flow from the surrounding goes in the perimeter ditch and goes around the treatment plant out
I
the
wouldn't
field.
say that too loud.
The way it was designed.
Okay. How's everything going for you?
Good, busy, but good.
Busy but good? Have you had any luck finding anybody yet?
No, sir. Got stack applications, got about 2 or 3 on call for interviews.
Okay, okay. You got a couple that look good, you think?
On interview.
I get you, I get you. Okay. Everything else good out there?
Yes,
What do you need? Anything other than people?
people.
That's the biggest
More
thing.
hours in the day, but people.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Get that. I guess you've already sent your budget in stuff that you need for the year?
Yes,
Any major things that we need to do out there?
there's a few listed.
Okay. But we don't have any storm damage or anything left until the next storm, right?
No, I still got some aluminum stuff I'm working with.
Okay.
But nothing as far as treatment.
Okay.
Or any damage.
Okay. Just structural.
Freestanding, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Now, when you get an influx of water like that, I mean, not on the property, but like you say, that comes in, now, what does that do to you? I mean, you get all the fresh water, or is it just leaks in the septic, or in our lines? How do you get that water?
Just throughout the collection system. Years ago, it used to be a whole lot worse.
Okay.
But just as guys got on it years ago and they started going around working with infiltration, and they done a gem up job, sometimes when we would get heavy rains, when the water would start standing, our flows would double, close to 2.5 times.
Really?
And so they jumped on that, started working on it. I guess, I don't know, y'all worked on it better than a year, going around doing everything.
Wow.
And they cut that less than half.
Wow. That's pretty impressive on both parts. Anything we can do for you?
No, right now.
Okay. All right, well, we're gonna keep helping as much as we can to get you people. So, like I say, anything you need from us. And again, this is not I say this every time, we just wanna learn what you do. We got all that rain last night, and I thought, well, what does this do to us? You know? It drowned out Mr. Williamson's orange trees, or do we put it in the ground? You know?
They don't take water when it's raining like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so then we go down the pipe with it.
I've only got two comments on the wastewater plant. We're gonna be doing the mechanical integrity testing on the injection well. That was approved last month. It is scheduled for, second week, I think, of July. So it takes a week. They'll be out there doing that. The only other thing, we did have a minor force main leak on Charlie Harvey Highway that was dealt with by both Mr. Gamatia and Mr. Manson's crews. You'll see some barricades up where we've made the repairs, and we'll fix the sidewalk and dress it up.
So Jamie, you have 2 positions or 3 positions vacant?
If these rains continue, will we have enough on-site storage capacity to hold water for a week while they're working on the well?
Oh, yes, sir. We still got, Sonny's roads have been taking it up till about the 1st of June, just as much as we had to ask them to cut back on the hours, because, the one pond was, starting to get pretty low, and it wanted the pumps to suck air.
Oh, yeah.
So, there's plenty of room in storage right now.
Good deal. Good deal. Good question. That's kind of what I was thinking, where we were putting it. All right, if you don't need nothing from us, thank you, and we appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir.
Kevin? What's this water do to you?
Not much at first. Normally if it's real bad up north of us, when it comes down the river.
Yep.
Starting to wake up. But right now we haven't really seen.
Haven't seen any of that. I don't know how much they're getting up in the valley, so
And they certainly do it from up north down the river.
when it starts. I seen some water moving up there Sunday, but it didn't look like they were moving a lot above there on 98. So, yeah. Okay. You have any luck hiring?
We hired, one, our last trainee Monday,
Okay.
so we're full as far as training.
Right, and you're still waiting on people to be there long enough to get their license.
We got 2 guys that are available to go get their license, they just haven't taken the test yet. Kind of pushing them to go get that, so we got 2 guys that all are passing over.
They've got their time in. If they pass, they'll become operators or get their license.
Who did you hire, Kevin?
The last one, his name was Oscar.
You like being the
Any prior
names?
any prior experience? Yeah, okay.
He was like a assistant manager, I think, at Walmart.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, cool.
Started Monday, so you got a full slate. So the 2 that's waiting, there's just because they're studying, or what do they need?
Yeah, I mean, they're ready, they're just scared to go take it, they're nervous about failing it. I told them they're ready, they've got the knowledge, they're just scared to fail it the first time.
You know, they fail it, try again. You know, tell them, failing it's not going to hurt them a bit.
Right.
You know,
That's what I told them.
we'd love to have them get their license. All right, so you got a full crew. Now on the repairs, where are we at on getting the pipe repaired and the rest of the stuff coming in?
I got an update in my report.
Okay, all right.
Unless you want me to do that now.
Yeah, come on up with him.
So our aluminum and roofing repairs, the materials come in Friday, and the contractor started yesterday, so they are started with all the aluminum and roof repairs. And the pipe repair status, we checked with the contractor, he has most all the parts in, but he's still waiting on the spool piece.
Okay.
So as soon as he gets the spool piece, he will schedule work to come do it.
So we're going to get done just in time for hurricane.
Probably. I mean, they finished one little line item job yesterday, I think.
They're back this morning, the big job over the filters, I guess they're waiting on.
Roofing
approval from the
panels.
County, right? Or something
Roofing
like that.
panels, I think is what I was told.
Wait on the panels.
Well, it's a shame it takes a year to get something, ain't it?
So that's updates on
Okay,
the repair.
good deal. All right, anything we can do for you?
No, sir, we're doing good.
Appreciate it. We appreciate what y'all do.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Manson? How you doing, sir?
Good. How about you guys?
We're good. You full yet with crew?
No, sir. No, sir. I've still got lacking two, the lift station guy and then, a regular guy.
Where did Josh go? The one.
He stayed.
He stayed?
I guess his package, he got more delivered to him, so he decided to stay where he was at.
Really?
Yes, sir. We were this close.
So where is he working now?
Unlimited.
Yeah,
And what was the package that?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I just know he offered him more time off and more money. So he felt that it was
He was looking for the time off.
right, right.
He was looking for that steady.
So, and then we're, like I said, we need a lift station guy and a regular guy, and then we got 2 interviews this Thursday, but none of them's for a lift station guy, just, a regular technician, so.
Okay.
Then we'll
Still-
have full.
Still nothing with somebody to fill that electrician?
Sorry, may I?
Mhm.
Just for information to add, we had an interview, and to tell them about the interview, we had 2 potential lift station candidates last week. And one did not accept the offer. The second, the supervisor think that he was not quite suited for what they wanted. So we had 2 candidates who we interviewed just recently. So we are now going back into the market to look to see who else are there.
I get plenty of applications, but it's just finding that person that's gonna do what you want them to do.
Right.
So,
So we're still looking, still advertising.
well, I thought.
We were encouraged with one of them, but like I said, the money didn't match up, so.
How much money off were we? Does anybody know?
Initially, he told us $28 per hour, but subsequently to the interview, when the offer was being made, he said that $28 he's revising at 28, and no longer the $28 was up what he was thinking. He had an offer, or he was working, I think, he has an offer on the course, and seemed to be that he's reasonable or well compensated on the course, and he stayed over there. He's actually coming from North Carolina. Just bought a house in Okeechobee.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I just lost a manager yesterday, and work from home 40 hours, start at 20 an hour. So it's gonna get tougher and tougher. All right, you get your stuff turned in that you need?
Yes, sir.
I know me and you discussed trucks. I've seen that we need a pile of trucks.
All departments, it's on the agenda.
Yeah. So, anything else we can do for you?
No, sir.
Just keep plugging at trying to get people, man.
Doing everything I
Hoping that
can.
$4 an hour that we've moved everything in the past year would at least get us some kind of enticement.
Well, 2 deals, retention and hiring, and certainly the retention aspect has been
Right.
benefited by the deal, but we still struggle on the outside. The guy that we're talking about, he's not doing wastewater work, he's doing something else, and he's getting well paid.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much we can do about it.
Yeah, well, retention's great, but when I'm sitting here looking at 28 and a half years, 27 and a half years, 33 years, another 28 and a half years. Ricky, how long you been here? 11, and I hate to say this, but you're a couple years older than me. So,
We have a pension meeting coming up, and I'm gonna change it to 40, so we're good.
Point being, I mean, we just, we're running out of time.
One of my guys, which we were talking about it, and he had a good point, so I don't know why I'm gonna bring it up, but I am.
Go ahead.
He said that, do you remember when, like, I was duck hunting on Lake Istapoga with a guy from the water plant when he told me the OUA was taking the city and the county over. We were shooting wood ducks. And I remember, like, he goes, man, it's going to be a good deal. You got, benefits and all this kind of stuff. And I was riding a horse, a lot. and I work for Dr. Harvey and his dad. So,
You can say Charlie.
yeah, Charlie. So he, the guy that works for us, that me and him was talking about this, and when we hired him, he said it was, it was attractive. Whatever the image was, it was very attractive. And then I was, I'd been here for a couple of years, and I got the opportunity of a lifetime to go run a feed business. And my wife at the time, they cooked for us and everything, had 2 families there. With the other family, they bought the feed store in Loretta, and that other family went and ran it. Well, then me and my wife was asked to run this other place. And we got home, and my wife said, what are we going to do without the benefits and all the other stuff that you get? So she actually talked me out of it.
Right.
So when you look at years later, how do we make to the people now, which they are different, how do we make it attractive? We gotta figure that. Is it man, them guys always have nice trucks, or they're dressed nice, or they have 4 10-hour days, which is a big deal.
You'd think the 4 10-hour days, the benefits package that y'all have is pretty nice, and the pay is better.
Right.
We're bringing the pay up, but it's this younger generation. They look at pay, and they look at work, at convenience of work. It's a different. You said Charlie Harvey. I grew up working for Ed Walpole and Nathan Hazley. They all had the same ethic: get up at daylight, or be at work at daylight, and go home at dark, and take Sunday off. And back then, I wish I'd had the foresight to have seen what you've seen. But I stayed over there, which they treated me good. There ain't no doubt. But I don't know how, and we've got this group coming in to do this survey. Maybe they can help us figure out how do we attract this younger group. I mean, at this point, middle-aged folks would be great.
With the interview in the end of the week, the guy's a year younger than me, and the other guy's in his 30s.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But I know you put down Chris Weeks for your successor, and he's got over 20 years, right?
Yes, sir. I think 24.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I'm trying to say is we've got to figure out how to close that gap. I mean, we're going to be sitting here with a handful of people, and the knowledge that's in this room between you guys right there and you two is just immense. It's irreplaceable. So, was there anything we can do for you?
No, sir, we're good.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Arnold, I still like saying that. How's everything going for you?
Good.
Good. Anything we can do? Are you full?
We are.
Well, look at you. You got 2 full and 2 not full. Okay.
No, we're good.
Any suggestions?
Not on my end.
Not on your end? Okay. We asked a question. What was that?
It was the merchant services, and she's been working on it with our director.
Okay.
Of merchant services.
Okay.
Michelle.
All right. All right. Any help from us on that? Okay.
No.
All right. We appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
My car was wet this morning when I got in.
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah.
Look
Yeah.
out for you.
Yeah. Had to drive. Probably had a
Some
cut.
mud puddles out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Walking in.
Yeah. Yeah. Jamie, do you want to go ahead? Yeah. Let's go ahead. Because I forgot you last time. Yeah. Like you say, we were numb. That's what I was going to ask Jess and forgot. About the generators.
So we went over a little bit of Kevin's already with the materials being delivered for the aluminum roofing repairs and the pipe repair status. The only thing different or extra I have to add on the surface water plan is all the generator preventative maintenance has been completed. Moving to maintenance, generator maintenance has been completed. There's a couple of lift station rehab that are up for approval today at the OUA board meeting. The lift station technician and distribution tech trainee positions are still open. And when I done this, I didn't know about the interviews that we're having, but we'll have those Thursday, 2 scheduled for that.
So Jamie, who does those interviews?
Typically, it's the supervisor, myself, and Lauriston has sit in on a few since we don't have a assistant finance or HR. When we do Jess's, Chris sits in with us because he's his foreman, you know. So that's about it on maintenance. The wastewater plant generator PM maintenance has been completed. I know there's one generator out there that's, Jamie can probably explain it more. We've got to have some repairs done to it. Application reviews, he's setting up some interviews, and he had a couple of employees out the last couple of weeks due to either sickness or family sickness.
The generator, Jamie, the generator, what you got on the generator out there?
It's our secondary generator. It
Secondary.
runs the old system.
Okay.
There's something wrong in the electronics, and our generator company doesn't have the programming to hook up to it to see what's wrong. So we're busy trying to establish an account with Cummins in Palm Beach, and as soon as they approve our credit,
They'll come work on it?
yes, we're gonna get them over there to see what it's gonna take.
Okay. All right, so it's that in?
Yes.
I believe it is an old one. And the only other thing I didn't add is we're having our supervisor meeting tomorrow at 1:30 after the board meeting, so whatever they don't hear, you know, for the rest of the meeting, we can kind of enlighten them on that.
Okay.
Well, I have a quick question, please.
Mm-hmm.
How do we track our inventory with OUA?
Track our inventory.
So,
Travis,
which inventory? Are you talking about parts? You wanna answer?
Yeah, I could. The parts inventory is maintained in Springbrook, both in terms of from the purchase order, the receiver, the issue. We do a stock count, a cycle stock count, and at the end of the financial year, we do another annual stock count, make the adjustment if there are any. But to answer your question directly, it's maintained in Springbrook. There's a module in Springbrook which maintains inventory.
Okay. So for the count, who actually conducts the count to update Springbrook? Who does the physical count inspection?
The annual count, or you're referring to just the monthly cycle count?
No, the annual account. So if you do
yes.
some type of audit or inspection to make sure everything is still there,
Yep. The
who
annual,
does that?
the annual count is done in teams, locally by us. But then the auditors, as you correctly said, comes in and does their spot check and validate the counts after. And if there is any adjustment, then there is made to the accounts and enter into the audited financial statement. So inventories are actually reviewed by the auditors.
So the auditors are actually physically going out and doing spot checks?
Yeah.
Is that per plant and maintenance
Um,
themselves, or how are they doing that?
The bulk of the inventory, I would say 99% of the inventory is at the maintenance and the water plant. So they normally go to that location. The value of what is at the wastewater plant is very minimal. There's just a few chemicals. There's not much. But the bulk of it is at the wastewater plant and maintenance, at the water plant and maintenance.
And is everything on a automatic restock?
Yes and no, but yes, there's a minimum required quantity that is inside of the inventory, yes, which triggers the replacement.
Okay, did we learn anything by not having a motor? Do we have a motor now for the train sitting in stock?
As to the specific, I couldn't speak to the.
Somebody should be able to tell us that.
Kevin.
You have a spare motor? You can put your hands on. Okay.
Yeah, next 26 weeks, but we got another one.
Okay. But you got it sitting there where, okay,
We got the other one, we're gonna order another one.
okay. Okay, good deal, good deal.
So anything that we have that we know for a fact would be a challenge if something were to happen, we already have a spare backup to whatever that may be.
There are so many things in the system, but we have a backup for the things that we have had happen to us before.
Okay, so like the PLCs, we're good there?
I couldn't answer to the specific items probably. I don't know if one of the supervisors want to speak to the PLCs or something other than the PLC, but
Well, that just comes to mind because of our last couple board meetings. So if we were in a pinch where something was damaged, we don't have something already on stock that we'd be able to pull from. We have to order and wait another 6 months, 11 months.
well, as I said, as to the critical items,
Yes.
I could make a look to see what are the critical items and to ensure that we have either in stock or on order.
Yes.
I could have a look at the critical items,
If
but
we could do that, please, especially now that we are seeing more severe weather and we've already lost some of the buildings, the aluminum buildings that could damage the PLCs at the water plant and
I'll have a look at the critical items and look at what's the inventory status
okay.
of
All right.
those.
Thank you.
And thanks for ordering another motor. I mean,
Yeah.
those are the kind of things that we want to make sure that's happening. When you have a failure like that and it creates an issue, that we don't have that same issue a second time. You know, I don't know, motor, I don't know how much it was, but if you'd have lost a second motor, we'd have been in bad shape.
Well, what made me even think about this is item number 26. So it just made me think, do we have things on hand if something goes out? And then the discussion we had from the plant inspection. So, okay. Thank you.
Good deal. Thank y'all. All right, y'all can go back to work. Thank you for your time. All right, moving on to agenda item number 6. I think that's where we're at, right? Consent agenda? Anybody have any deletions or changes or items they want to pull or?
Just to make mention again that we adjusted the item 16, adding the Kimley additional invoice.
Yeah, and that was the $106,000 one, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, need a motion.
Motion to accept the consent agenda as amended.
Have a motion by Mr. Nelson, need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mullenhour. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we're gonna jump all the way to where? 20 or 21?
21.
21. Finance report, Mr. Larston.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, thank you. All right, in the finance report for the month of May, there is nothing exceptional which stands out at this moment. The trend continue with the revenue, where we are actually tracking at 5.6% better than the budget at this stage, which is a good sign, and we hope that the trend will continue for the rest of the 4 remaining months in the financial year, right? On the expense side, we are doing a lot better than what we were budgeted to do, which is approximately 18 to 19% above. In terms of favorable variance, it is not that we are not spending the money, or expending on expenses, but one of the things that I think that we have also have to consider is last year when the budget was being done, the market was very volatile in terms of the expenses, and the prices were just going wild. Gasoline, for example, were moving at $5, I think it's per gallon, close to 5. Chemicals, was no one know where the chemicals were going to land at. So we budgeted in terms of trying to make a best estimate of where we think it might landed with those consideration in mind. As at today, the market has tempered, and therefore things like chemicals, we're seeing favorable variance as at this moment. I'd probably say over $100,000 as at this moment in terms of chemical utilities, tracking a little bit better than where we thought it would have been. Gasoline, we're now paying $3 something, I think, per gallon. So yes, the percentage is there, but also it has to do with the fact that the budget was built in a time period when inflation was running close to 9%. Now, I just looked at it. As at this month, reported inflation, 4%. So it has to do with some of those benefits that we have realized in the expense, right? So on the expense side, we are actually 19% below our expenses, and I've just related some of the factors which have caused that. So when we come to the cumulative variance, which looks at the day-to-day operation in terms of revenue coming in daily and expenses that goes out on an average day, we're actually $1,500,000 in the better, right? A favorable variance. Doesn't mean that that is all money we have to spend, but it is showing that on our daily operation, we are doing a lot better. The greater percentage, of course, is coming from the savings on the expenses. If we move over to the restricted funds, we are now on the restricted funds, we healed a total of $346,000 versus a budget of 98. We are 250% better than what we had. And the reason, of course, we all know last year when we did the budget, we were gaining a 0.4% of interest on our deposits at the bank. Today we are gaining 3.56%, right? Up from 2.5 before, we got an additional 1%. So we are now at 3.56%. So we are earning some good interest, I'll say, on our deposits that we have at the bank. And the bulk of the deposit has to do with these the resolutions that we have put aside for the funds.
So you're 155,000 above what we budgeted on interest.
On interest?
Yeah. We had a budget of 21.6 and we're at 176. So
looking at what, page 2? Where are you?
Bottom of page 1.
Bottom of page 1.
Your comments on page 1.
You got us at 176,000.
Okay. Yes, compared to the budget of $21,000, and that's true. We're 155,000 ahead, and as I said, that has to do with interest.
Yes.
We did a 0.4% projection in the budget, and we are now yielding 3.56.
Well, the fact that we've had 46 new connections on water and 19 wastewater, that's pretty impressive too, considering we only budgeted 16 and 8.
Yep.
Go ahead.
And that's going to change with all the construction projects. Pine Ridge Park, we did not build that into the budget, but we could have upwards of maybe before the end of this fiscal year, certainly by next fiscal year, 80 new water customers and 100 plus new wastewater customers. But that's a capital expenditure as opposed to what we call infill, people walking in the door saying, I need a new service. And that's the kind of the difference between the connections.
So on this, the terminology of the new service, that is actual new connections to the system as a whole, not someone selling their home, coming in
correct.
and reconnecting.
That is correct.
Okay, very good.
And then at the bottom, I just gave, now that the audit has been completed, using the audited financial statement from last month, I recalculated what was the lien that we have and from the audit results, and the senior lien is presently at 1.99 versus the resolution of 1.2. And the junior lien calculation is 2.64 versus resolution. So we are in respect of the resolutions in terms of the lien, so there's no exposure there as well too.
And we're within 5 years of paying one off and 6 of paying the other one off.
Yes. Yes. Let's leave it at that.
And that'll put the wastewater plant paid for, finally.
Well, keep in mind and we always have to be aware of this, on some of these paired notes, like maybe the SRF notes or the Truist, they're wraparounds, so when you pay one off, the next
So
one
on
picks
fixing.
up that difference. We do that because it helps to keep our annual debt service payments relatively flat. So it's always nice to say, oh, well, we get rid of a note. Well, yes, we do, but the principal payments go up on the other one, so our net effect is, we still spend $2 million or whatever it is for annual debt service payments.
Yes.
Yeah, on the second lien.
That was what was about was up to say that the Truist, we have 2 loans on the Truist, but when one comes down, the next one actually kicks up. So your total annual payment remains at roughly $800,000.
For budgeting purposes, it works out well.
Right,
Yes.
but it shortens up the term.
Saves the interest in the end.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Yep.
That's very good.
So, just before we leave, I'd like to make sure I point out one thing, something that I kind of look at. When you look at this field here, and I can make this, I kind of pay attention to these numbers. So you compare last year's revenue to this year's revenue at the same time period, and we're roughly up 7.2%. So you know that we're tracking differently for our accounting. And when you look at operating expenses from a year ago to now, it's up 6.2%. So percentage-wise, they're kind of copying each other. What we're seeing is our revenues are up, but our expenses are up. Now, it's percentages, so the dollars are going to be different slightly, but we see both of them trending upward, which is not always good. We'd like our expenses to stay flat, but it is where we're at in today's market. So we just kind of, there's a lot of information when you drill down on this sheet and you kind of look at that, you see that, our revenue stream between the 2 years is up, but so is our expenses. But it's not up at the 18.7, and that's an anomaly with what we were experiencing with, supply chain issues and, lack of product. And we just had no idea where this year was going to land compared to what we were seeing, back in 22.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for? Okay, moving on to item agenda number 22, the preliminary FY '24 budget. Back to Marston.
All right. What we did, this is the preliminary budget. So we have put together some figures in terms of expected revenues and expected expenses, having gone into the market, having looked at what is happening, and we have projected a budget now that we are now presenting for review, for discussion, and for the board members to basically make contribution as to any adjustment or additional deletion that they would like to have before we come to the submission of the final budget. So here what we have done with the preliminary budget, we have added all the assumptions that we have made. So the attachments or the assumption, not getting into too much numbers here in the package. So what we're trying to do is to list the assumptions. Like on the revenue side, we're saying that given what we're seeing, we're looking at a 5% increase in the rate adjustment. We have also said that on the expense side, we are looking, when we look at the recurring costs of the increase in salary and the general increase in cost of goods, we have made some projections as well too. On the, sorry, let's not go into that. Okay, so pretty much these are the preliminary budgets. You have a package in front of you. I think apart from Melanie, who I didn't know was going to be here, I prepared a package for you.
Thank you.
There's a complete package of the preliminary budget, which you do have by you, which goes into detail by sections, the different A, B, and C's, which goes into more detail where numbers are being presented and crunched. So it basically is asking for you to review this over the next month or two, and to any questions, I am available. The executive director is available as well. Both of us, we have gone through, we think we have a good grasp and understanding and should be able to address any questions that comes. So let's spend the time to review this. So this is just for information as it is right now. If there are any questions to ask about the budget, we can answer any preliminary questions.
Why wouldn't we put the Pine Park in here in our infill growth?
We can, but the situation, we'd have to label it separately as far as the infill is just scattered new customers coming in. We could try to do that for capital connections, those people. We could do that as a separate from a project. We could.
Yeah, I'd like to see it, see what it does.
So based on the numbers that we have here, and you putting this together, the prelim, and you compare the 22 audit and fiscal year 23 actual results, and that's how we came up with these numbers?
Yep.
That's how we built this?
Yep.
Okay. So my next question would be on page 2 of your write-up. You know, you've got your increase in labor costs, but then you've got here not included are these other items. So even though we didn't make a decision, why are we not proposing something so that we could look at it?
Well, these weren't included because I think I'd like to hear from the board, some direction from the board. Would you like to have me include this, or would you like us to delay this to a future period? It's really for discussion. In the detailed package, I've produced what are the expected costs from these decisions. So like if we were supposed to have a single shift,
right,
it would require, I think, 10 additional, removing off the single person shift, it would require 10 additional persons. And we know what's the cost of 10 additional persons. So those are in the package, and I think further around in the notations here.
The other things, if I can, the camera system, the fencing, all of those are not known right now at this time. We're working on them. We're still working to put together the camera system. You have a quote in today's package for the fencing around the surface water treatment plant. We will have the quote for the fencing at the wastewater plant at the next board meeting. Those all come out of a capital budget anyway, not a recurring expense type deal, but we would add those. As far as the people, our intent was to get the preliminary budget out today based upon historic values, how we got to it. By the next board meeting, we can start adding segments that are different than historic. So like the elimination of single shifts, that is going to be addressed. I've gone to the supervisors, both water plant and wastewater plant, saying, looking at your current shifts, how many people do you need to add to meet the DEP operating requirements so that we eliminate the single shifts? Once they tell me that they need 10 bodies, we can assign a value to those and add in all their workman's comp and get their multiplied labor rate what is the true cost to the OUA for those 10 bodies.
So where did the number 10 come from?
The way that is being worked out, we, as I said, we look at their current
Right.
shift.
Mhm.
So if they have to be open, let's say, 16 hours a day,
Mhm.
and based upon what is currently experienced, how many of those shift periods are occupied by one person only? If we eliminate, obviously, the single shifts, we need a second body, not necessarily an operator,
Mhm.
but we need a second person there. Could be a trainee, could be a technician, could be, it's just another, from a safety standpoint, that we have more than one person there. So we have to bill it, that's how we come up with the 10. We start with what our current shift requirements are, and then add from there. What will change that, though, is things like if we do with a, when we start trying to address the automated gates or the wireless camera, do those require people to be there? To make them, the functionality of those systems, really the most bang and benefit to the OUA. So we have to, once we get those figured out, what's required, it may or may not require more people. If we do cameras, then do we do cameras out front, for the customer service there? I mean, there's things that we just need to address. We have trucks parked out there 24/7. Maybe we need to put a camera on the truck. I mean, it's just, once you start down this path, there's other things that get added, and we're trying to address them all as we go.
I've got probably 30 cameras and I don't have enough.
So if I could, let me at least refresh memories on this preliminary budget. When you get it, make sure that you start, the meat of it, if you will, is in this section A. Everything that assumptions we made, increases, decreases, the high spots are listed in A2 and A3. Where you have to start with the overview, the big picture, is sheet A4, where it walks through the big categories such as here's our revenue stream, here's our debt service coverage, here's our debt payments, here's transfers in, transfers out. A4 is the big overview that ties the whole budget together. And then you break into certain sections, C being 17, 18, 19 pages of specific detail by department, labor, fuel, electricity, R&M, just everything in C. B being labor. O, Larson knows these sections burned into his head.
Yeah. You did a really good job explaining things last year, so.
Yeah,
And I'm available again to any board members.
I encourage
So-
you, if you've not sat with him, to do so.
What we would like is for you to go through and look at these. Then Lars and I certainly have gone through this multiple times, looking at it. Would be happy to either do telephone or in-person discussions with you to go through the detail. But start with A, and primarily looking at A2, 3, and 4. Will give you a very, very good start as to where we are with the budget.
All right, so we're going to have elimination of a single shift by next meeting. We're going to have those numbers.
We should hopefully get wireless cameras, all of that, yes, sir.
Okay.
And that would just be an adder to this preliminary budget, if you so choose to want to go that way. Then the next question is, where do we get the bodies? But one step at a time.
Yeah. We know that's going to be difficult, so, but I think it's something we have to approach. Okay, anybody got any questions for Larston?
And I don't know if you want me to, but let me at least say this now, so when you're looking at it, when you look at this A1 sheet, keep in mind that he already briefly touched on that our starting point right now is across the board 5% adjustment. What can change that is the board will go back and try to reconsider whether you want the 75% reduction in connection fees to be carried over. It's every year we have to do this. There's numbers in there showing you what happens if we don't do the 75% reduction. If we go to 50% or 25, it's going to have an impact on the bottom line financially, bringing more revenue in. And we're going to have a lot of customers connecting over the next few years. But that is something that by the time we get to August, if you want to continue the 75%, we'll just do that for another year. The other things to consider is that there is still the salary adjustment proposed for next year. And there is the healthcare expense in there going from $750 to $1,100, which I once again will tell you that that is huge to our employees. And the time for enrollment is in August, so we kind of need to know an answer on that before we get to August, because then our employees can make the appropriate choices for their health care based upon what the OUA contributions.
Well, why don't you bring that back to us next month, single item, our cost and everything, so that we can go ahead and get that put to bed one way or the other.
Well, it's in here.
I know
Take
that.
it out. We can take it out or put it in.
Bring it back to us next month so that we're not lumping it, all the coal into one bag. Let's go ahead and, line item this and look at it.
Yeah, we can bring it back. I just want to make sure that when you look at it, that's at the focus of your attention, all of those items when we go through the budget.
Are we being too conservative on the budget infill growth rate of 25 water and 12 sewer?
Well, that's the reason I asked.
Yeah,
That's why I'm asking, are we being ultra conservative here, or?
I'm going to say, if we're going to tend anyway, we want to be conservative. Could they be higher than that? We could go back and look at, say, the last 5 years to know where our infill is. A lot of that is obviously going to be driven by the real estate market, whether it's trending up or down because of.
Well, right now, you can't buy nothing in Okeechobee. There's no inventory.
Okay, so what's driving that would be the statement that our inventory is down, and if new constructions occur, then the 25 and 12 is going to go up.
I haven't heard this from Mr. Coker, but I heard his land, I heard that it's signed and done.
Okay, I know it's moving through the process.
I heard that it closed.
So the idea that that is going to happen, well, then that's going to impact us in 2 years' time.
Right, but we got Pine Ridge Park sitting out there that should impact us this coming year.
And I guess, Mike, where I'm going with this is, if we're being too conservative and we're looking at our expenses and we're going to need to do a rate increase to the consumer, I want to make sure that, we're not increasing it too much to them to offset something whenever these numbers, we may have more revenue coming in, but yet we're turning around and increasing our rates to the consumer.
To back what she's saying, John, you just handed us proof. You're at 46 connections already this year. We budgeted 16.
Yes.
But you have to look towards the future. You think out of the box, in my opinion, because you have a gain, but you can also have a loss. And one of the things that Melanie and I experienced in the very beginning, we tried to hold the rates, and then we got caught.
Right, but we have to, if you look at what we're doing right here, if you just heard everything he said, I mean, we're $1.5 million ahead, right?
Yeah.
So those are the things we have to look at. We have to
be careful not
to charge the 5%, if we gotta go 2 or 3 or whatever, but if we're sitting here with $1.5 million with 4 months left to go, that we're trending to the good, it's impossible to go back to the community and say, hey, we need 5% more, and we're sitting here with $1.5 million.
Yeah, that's fair. Let me also just throw this into the mix. When it's sort of this double-edged sword. When you lower the potential for the connection cost, the idea is to spur new connections, which are long-term impacts financially.
more connection.
But the reverse side of that is the connection cost, specifically the capital connection charge, is set up to pay down debt that we've already assumed.
John, you're looking at $136,000.
All I'm just trying to point out is there's two sides to the coin. One is that by lowering the connection fees, we bring more customers on for the long-term benefit financially. The trade-off is by lowering the capital connection charges by 75%, those monies that were supposed to be taken in to pay down debt, we don't receive. So our existing rate customers and our new customers are picking up that difference. So it's a fine line as to where we do. But we,
No. I mean, you're giving me a number here of no discount, 136,000, but I'm gonna get 50 new hookups that are here for
yes, sir.
long-term?
No, that's I'm not trying to talk about the difference between projecting infill or new capital connection. I'm just talking about on the discounted rate and the connections, what the two sides of that looks at. I'm not talking about the numbers.
Yeah, but I mean, again, though, you're trading $136,000 for 46, so far, 46 new customers.
Yeah, no, that's a part of it, yes, sir.
You know, plus 16 additional wastewater customers.
Yes, sir. But the trade-off is by lowering the capital connection.
But it's $136,000. Okay, all right. I don't get your point, but,
I just want us to make sure we are comfortable with these numbers before we come back to the board and say we need to raise rates to the consumer again. I want us to make sure we're really fine tuning this, is what I'm asking.
We are, and I think the next agenda item will show a trend of the last 3 years and
Yeah.
percentage.
Right.
That the difference has not really been huge
Right.
as we come to that next agenda item.
Yeah,
So
when I look at the two difference in the years, that's where I'm coming from. So, and I know we've got potential of more people coming on, so we have to also take
No,
that
you
into
don't.
account. So, I'll be back. Anyway,
Okay.
I want to make sure
Thank
we're
you.
comfortable with fine tuning these numbers.
no problem. And as I said, this is for discussion, and we're both.
hold up for just a second. Miss Anderson, thank you for coming back, and I know you gotta leave. We're tickled to death that you were filling that seat.
Thank you so much, I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I called, I won't hold you up because I've gotta go, but, in thinking this through and talking to Harry, and I called Tim Stanley just to see from Gates' side what's going on. And I told him that I was thinking about, applying for the alternate position. He said, well, you did leave in a good way, didn't you? I said, I hope so. Aw.
That's what we're gonna tell you to your face later.
Thank you. Welcome back, and thank you.
Thank you, see you next month.
Sorry, Larson, go ahead.
No, I was just summarizing to say that this is a discussion, people. There are things that might be needed to be added and to be subtracted. We crave your support and discussions. We are available at any time to go through. As John says, the assumptions are on the different sections which are here. Section A and Section C also has some assumptions there, and L. So A, C, and L have some assumptions, and D on the revenue side. So go through and let's have some discussions.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the southwest section, one of my siblings received her letter in the mail about the connection. So bringing those folks on, what's the anticipated date there?
2 years,
Okay, so.
anywhere from 18 months to 2 years.
Okay, so if someone were to say, okay, I want to start today, are we equipped to do that?
Well, yes, ma'am, we can, but here's the flip side of that. We have a $3 million grant out there to do connections, and a part of that could be to pay down the $1,400. So if we start taking payments right now, what happens if we come in with these grant monies I just signed an application yesterday for the, work on the property, and it includes our $1,400 fee. If we start taking payments now, and people, hit their budgets and start making payments, and then in 2 years say, oh, look, we got this grant money, now what have we done? So when people call me up, or the letter, I just tell them, say, look, you can start making payments now if you want to, or my recommendation is you wait until we find out if we get some of this grant money to pay down that $1,400.
Yeah, but if you've got folks that are having septic issues and it's costing 10,000 plus to replace a drain fill, I guess why wouldn't they go ahead and do that now?
Oh, they can't connect.
They can't connect.
That's
There's
what-
nothing out there.
that's what,
No, they can't, I just talked to a lady the other day that got a quote, $14,000.
Yes,
And I said,
I mean, issue that contract, I said.
correct.
you could do like others where they pump their tank out, because you don't understand. I got 4 kids and, a spouse, and
You pump it in every month.
and I said, well, then we might want to look at maybe doing part of a drain field as opposed to a whole drain field, but our service will not be able to connect for 18-plus months. So,
$14,000.
Yes, it's crazy, it is. And now the way that July 1st, with them changing the rules and regulations of how anything has to be installed now, it's gonna cost people a fortune.
No
An
wonder your daddy
absolute
got back in
fortune.
the business.
I don't know.
the letters did go out. We actually do have a town hall meeting
Yes.
a week from today at the gathering, and where we will make the plans available, the engineer will be available. If customers want to come forward, residents, they can ask their questions, trying to put a forward positive look on the project. So we have that lined up for next Tuesday night at the gathering, 7:30, if y'all are so inclined to want to be there. While I'm talking about meetings, we were supposed to be on the city council tonight for this mandatory connection, and that's been pushed to July,
Push by who?
the city.
The city.
Why?
The official word is public advertising because of the ordinance. Between the readings, the first reading and the second, there has to be a window open for a public comment period. I can tell you that the other pushback was there are folks that want to put a dollar amount in the ordinance to where if it's above a certain dollar amount, they don't have to connect, which means it's a non-mandatory connection policy.
David?
Any comment?
Yeah, can you help us with that?
Because, I mean, this has been dragged on
Well,
for
that could-
such a very, very long period of time.
but it could-
And when we talk to the other entities that are out there, it's mandatory. I mean, I don't know why there's I mean, yeah, please forgive me, if there's a stall tactic. We need to get everybody on board and hooked up once and for all, over here.
My concern would be the issue with grants or money going forward, that if we are to be connecting to the services and we're not doing that, then that's jeopardizing money that we could have to actually continue to expand.
Well,
Can
it's,
you speak, or?
Yeah, I mean, you have one councilman that has questions,
Okay.
and I think other than that, I'm definitely
Right.
100%. If it's there, you need to connect.
Yeah.
And there's no logical reason why not.
Okay, so the particular councilman, have they spoken with John?
no.
Okay. And that you have one versus the majority, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
He posed some questions to our attorney about the state statute.
And I did forward the state statute to the attorney, saying and the reason why that was asked, it was more about this 365-day notice and whatever, and I pretty much gave them that connection where it's in the state statute that requires us, this letter that just went out was the first letter where we told them it was going to be available in the future, near future. And then I have to send a second letter that once it does become available, you now have another 12 months with which to connect per the state statute. What the state statute doesn't have is the hammer that says, if you don't do it, what happens? And that's why it's up to the governmental agencies, county or city, to have their code enforcement people to enact that.
And another question that came up is where it is available today to a resident. When do they have to apply? When is it mandatory for them?
If it's available right now, I would divert back to the state statute, which says they have 365 days from notice. And that would be where we would be. So, anyway, I'm sorry I got sidetracked.
No,
We're
but
talking
we-
about public meetings, and I just wanted to make sure that that got out there, that it's deferred to July. And I think there is the movement that it's going to happen, but who knows?
But I also want, we keep going back to the state statute, but in addition to the state statute, I want to make sure we're all clear that some of the grant money that we're receiving, it's also written in some of the documentation, so it's not just the state statute. Because if I'm hearing you say they're pushing back, hoping that there's a loophole there, well, it's not just that. We have an issue, so, anyway.
Well, we're also spending OUA money,
Correct.
not just grant
Correct,
money,
John.
it's OUA
That's
money.
right. That's right. Good
And
point.
our ratepayers
Yes.
expect to get a return,
Yes, on their
if you will, on their investment, and that return is, we put in a system, we know we have to operate and maintain it, but if you don't have connections,
Right.
then you don't have the revenue to help pay for that O&M cost. So it's one of these deals, it's where the board has elected to hold off on the Southwest Fifth Avenue engineering agreement, because we don't have, why spend money if we don't have mandatory connections?
And again, can we get money if we don't have mandatory connections?
It depends on the grant.
Well, a little bit was brought up about the new legislation where we're gonna have to start, the county, the cities, are gonna have to start tracking septic tanks, locations, inspections. It's gonna get tougher. And the only way around that is to eliminate septic tanks.
Well, I guess my question would be too, that if something comes back and we end up having to repay grant money, what recourse do we have if we've got another entity that's causing the issue? Is someone gonna help us pay those monies back?
No.
I'm just saying.
We're on our own.
I'm just saying.
David, you think do we need to be talking to each of the other council members?
Didn't hurt.
Okay.
And do we have this issue with the BOCC, or is it just?
I have been told that the BOCC, and I know this for a fact, their land development regulations are quite clear. You shall connect. What was not clear in the land development regulations was what happens if you don't.
The enforcement
Yes.
mechanism.
And so the hammer, the enforcement mechanism, that process has been dealt with. The person was supposed to contact me and tell me what it was, and they have yet to do that. So I'll pursue that with the county to know. The county's always had a mandatory connection policy. It's just the enforcement of it has been lacking.
That's what I think we need to also
Well, you bring up
ask.
your point of, God forbid, we have to pay back
Yes,
the grant money.
that's right.
We have a serious problem
Yes,
on our hands.
yes, yes.
Very serious.
In addition to what we already
I
invested.
mean,
If we
take a look
fail,
at-
it goes back to the county.
Right, well, if we fail, well, also too, there's others involved other than that, so.
But staff, board members, staff, we're working with both the city and the county to try to reach a successful conclusion. And all I can tell you is, the chairman hasn't signed the grant application yet because we don't have a project in the Southwest Fifth Avenue.
So let's, as board members, we need to be talking to our city council people.
We meet tonight.
So,
I mean, I can be there tonight if you want me to further say, but from my indication, talking to Gary Ritter, it is being actively pursued by city staff It's just now July 18th meeting or something like that, is where it's gonna be back on the agenda.
Well, maybe you attending tonight and just sharing some of this other information so that it's officially on record would be nice.
Happy to do that.
Yes, thank you, John. Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you,
David.
Jamie.
So, sorry, I got us sidetracked on meetings.
All right, so we need to move on to agenda item number 23. 3 years budget versus actual analysis.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Which one?
All right, at the last board meeting, I think we were given the task to put together a 3-year comparative looking at the actual and the budget. So we went through and we looked at putting together the figures. And the actual, I must state, these are the budget, these are the audited financial figures. So it is not just our internal, but it was figures as presented by the auditors. In summary, it's a number of sheets that are attached, and there are some details. We're not necessarily interested in getting into the details, but broadly speaking, on the first sheet, the summary shows that our budget, we were targeting for 2020, we're targeting a deficit of $183,000. We ended up with a surplus of $834,000, which yielded a variance of $1 million. 2020, right? That's the
$1 million to the good.
That's to the good. That is further broken down into how did we realize this 1 million? From the revenue, 94,500 approximately accounted for that. So there was revenue in terms of favorable revenue of 94,000. And then the expense side, we had a $923,000 in the good to give the total of $1 million. You can come down, John, roll down some. Coming down, you'll see we then go into summary again, but a little bit more detail. That the revenue side, we have some percentage. If you look at just the main revenues, it was a 0.4% difference in terms of the actual versus the budgeted, right? The total revenue, 0.9%. So when we look at the infill and some of those percentage, I know the infill might be small, fairly small, $136,000. But overall, I think that we were spot on. We're just about 1% difference, in terms of the actual and the budget for 2020. Of course, if we were supposed to go across to the right, 2021 for the revenue, we have 5.6%. And further going across for the year just ended, the revenue difference was 6.3, all in single digits. So I would say that the budget that was established was well done, fairly well done historically. Whoever, the persons who prepared previously, right, to me. But at 6.3, including John, of course, 5.6 and 0.9%, those are in terms of the variance, the delta on the revenue, those are commendable in terms of the difference. And that doesn't indicate to me that there were any padding of the figures, but realistically trying to establish a budget. Now, on the expense side, if we come down on the expense side, in the same 2020, we had an 8.4 difference. Yes, the dollar value was $923,000, but we are in the good in terms of 8.4%. And then in 2021, it had a jump into 18%. 18%, I know it's not really major difference, but that 18% might be accounted for some things like in the salaries of the total, and again, chemicals and those things. And
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So our capital improvements that we have been budgeting for, I mean, looking at what has been spent, what are we actually spending to budget?
On the capital side,
Yes.
we are coming to that. You want me to jump to the capital
No,
side?
you
That's in a different
Okay.
area.
A different spreadsheet.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so, on the revenue, on the expense side for 2022, if you go across to the right a little bit, 5.6%. So that's a breakdown in terms of what is the total delta, the variance, variable, and also how was it comprised, or what made it up, what portion attributable to revenue savings, revenue exceeding the budget, and what attributable to expense in terms of the savings you realize. So overall, we have that in terms of the budget versus the actual.
So on your net position, 2020, we're $1 million to the good. 21, we were 2.6.
Yep.
And on 2022, we were 1.3.
Any other question?
No, go ahead.
All right. If there's no other question on the daily operation in terms of the revenue and the expenses, just briefly, we have individual sheets for the different department on the capital side that you just alluded to. Probably we could just go to this one here. Just with the, go across to the right, the sheet. No, go back to the sheet. I think you have to go to the left and press that.
Over here?
Yeah, to the bottom.
Here?
No, next to it, to the left, yeah, press that arrow. All right, and then you see the summary.
Oh, deal,
Summary, yeah.
okay, so.
All right, so when we come to the capital side is a little different, and I think what we have to bear in mind that whatever we budget in the capital side, if we don't expend it, we normally repeat the budget in the following year. So it is not that you budget, you don't spend, and you lose it, right?
So what is it that we're not spending on that we're budgeting for?
Okay.
That's where I'm going with this.
All right, D1 admin, if you look at D1 admin, we have been budgeting, like for last year, we budgeted $700,000 to, we're thinking of purchasing that,
The building.
the building.
Right.
Right? You also have the water plan and the wastewater master plan that for another $350 that we have been budgeted for. It's not that we haven't been doing renovation and update, but in terms of here, we are expending on capital, on projects versus inside.
So give me an example of what we budgeted for in projects that we did not do.
All right, calm down. Projects. Let's go to,
You want to go with D1?
no, let's go to wastewater. Let's see what wastewater has. All right, so in 2021 and 2021, since that's at the bottom there, I'm seeing right there, we had budgeted 106 for the entrance road at the pavement of the wastewater treatment plant, 106. We didn't do.
Why is that?
Yeah, why are we not doing these projects we approve?
On, say, like the entrance road.
Yeah.
That was when we were working with DJJ, because much of that road is used by them and not us. And then most recently, DJJ walked from, I guess, their lease agreement.
Right.
So it would now be all costed or figured by us. And let's make sure we understand, and Larston can get into some kind of detail. These projects are not funded directly from, say, a rate increase.
Mm-hmm.
It's from the reserve that's in the capital project.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's projected to be done, or it's not done, or it comes in a cost expense, it comes out of the capital improvement project, not necessarily from our ongoing rates.
So when DJJ was involved, were we receiving any type of grant money or any kind of supplement from them that would have helped with the pavement of that?
The discussions we were having at that time, there were discussions.
Right.
That it would be a shared expense.
So we missed out on that shared expense that we could have taken care of the pavement of that
I
road.
wouldn't say that we missed out. The deal was it was never formulated, and since then, they have dropped off the radar screen.
I know, but we missed the opportunity to have some funding there to pave that, so we would still be taking advantage of that paved road, correct?
There were discussions about it. We had
Right.
nothing firm, nothing confirmed that they would, or, you have to understand, it goes through their budget cycle too, where if they agreed to it, then they'd have to build it into their budget.
Okay, so we've done nothing. So the roads now, that was in 21. So what do you think it's gonna cost today to do the whole road?
It's gonna be more than $106,000.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
understand.
so we're gonna
with some
kick
of
it.
this stuff.
The problem that I see with this is we kick the can a little further down the road. So 5 years from now, we're gonna spend $600,000-700,000 rebuilding the road, which we could have done half of it for 106, our half, and then we probably have to bite the bullet and do the other half eventually. But my point is these projects that we're putting out there, you guys, in my opinion, need to come back to the board when we don't do them. That we need to be.
Well, why we're not doing it.
Yeah, and why we're not going forward with these projects. I mean, we voted to tear Sammy Farrell's house down 5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago. It's record. We've sit here and voted on it to tear it down. It's never come down.
Sammy Farrell's is a different situation.
But my point is, and we're still maintaining the yard. You know, when we could go out there and put up a little bit of fence and let the cows have it. But we gotta get to the point to where you guys, when y'all don't do a project, we need to know that, because we're taking your suggestions and we're voting on to do them. And then it doesn't happen, and then we go back here and we've got $1 million, each year we've got over $1 million, one year $2.6 million, and you want me to go to the community and say, I'm gonna raise your rates?
So I guess my other question is, how bad is the road? Is it in bad shape?
The road from where our employees are, it's drivable. From the point where we share the entrance with what used to be Eagle, something, the girls' portion
Oh, okay.
of DJJ.
Mhm.
It's a rough road. There's been a lot of repairs made to it. Repairs like pothole, paved
So
over.
the constant maintenance out through all of this, when we could have paved that part, is that correct? I'm asking because I don't know what it looks like out there. If we would have paved it, we wouldn't be continuing to maintenance potholes and things?
Well, I don't know that. It would be less for a while. Certainly, when
Okay.
you pave a road, there's less maintenance
Right.
initially.
Right.
At times, it is gonna start to deteriorate.
Yeah, and at the point now, though, you've got, how much traffic less would that?
Oh,
We got our guys
Amitia
going
would
in.
be here.
Yeah.
It went from, say, I'm gonna guess, 150 vehicle count to 25 or.
Yeah, 30.
I mean, it's considerably less.
But at some point, none of that ever comes back. That road's gotta be fixed. And as you see, everything's going up. My point being, we should have at least had the discussion of what do y'all wanna do with this?
So what's up with the Kings Bay lift station?
There's a small pump station there at Kings Bay where all the waste from the houses is pumped into, and then that is pumped into the treatment plant. And there's been some ongoing discussions as to whether they do that or don't do any repairs to it. And they have been doing repairs. This fee was a cost to completely replace the lift station. And I'd have to check with Mr. Gammatee as to why that was not done, because I know we were talking to both him and through other OUA staff to get that accomplished, or a contractor to come in.
So I'm hearing you say that we're still making maintenance and repairs to this when we could have actually replaced it for $20,000.
in 21. You're not gonna replace it for 20 grand. in
Right, no, I
2021.
get that, I get that, but we could have replaced it for 20,000 in 2021.
Yeah, that's my point, though. It should have been replaced then,
Mm-hmm.
because now we gotta replace it, it's gonna cost, well, I know we passed that on, I get that, but still,
So Larston, what other tabs do we have with projects that have not?
We have the departments, you have maintenance, you have
Let's look
water.
Okay, so.
Here's water, water
Okay,
plant.
so 30,000, two filter valve activated, what is that?
actuators.
Those are the valve actuators for the filters, operating the filters.
So we have not replaced the filters yet?
Did you ever get
But-
clarification?
My understanding is that the filters are not bad, so we do not replace them, but we do have is it the actuators or the filters in stores? We have some things in stores, and we have also an order, a set that is coming in.
So they've not been replaced, but we budgeted for them to be replaced, is that what I'm hearing?
And we have them on hand.
We have some of the filters, we have one set of the filter, I think our actuator can have 6 filters, I think. We have a set of filters on hand, and we also have a complete set on order coming in.
The actuators usually open and close the valves.
That's right.
Yeah, the actuators,
Move your flow, they actually go back and forth, trying to keep the flow the
Same.
same each filter.
okay.
So is this something that we need to be having done, that we've budgeted for? I mean, is it something that, I'm asking, I don't know.
I'm gonna get an answer from
Okay.
Kevin Rogers.
The filters are situations like in a house, depending upon
Well,
circumstances.
this isn't filters. This is
This
the
is
actuator on
actuators.
top.
Yeah,
Ah.
yeah, this is the actuator, so it's
Yeah.
not the filters themselves.
It's not the filters. This is what adjusts the water flow through the filters.
So then we've got 10,000 and ozone generator controllers. Have we done those? The 2 panels?
I'm gonna say yes, they've paid. I think they're here this week, coming back to do the ozone panels. I think I've seen an email to that effect, that they're back. Ricky, do you know, are they back this week doing it? Okay, I believe I've seen some emails where ozone, the generator folks, we paid, I want to say $70,000 to do a complete refurbishment of both units, and they are back this week doing the panels, the HMI.
Jamie, check and see if we have the actuators in stock, if you would, please, sir.
And then the ozone generator controllers, is this something that is problematic if we have something go down at the plant in the ozone room?
It is problematic from a standpoint of ozone. There's 2 trains,
Yeah.
redundancy, one
Yeah.
that actual
So
backup.
that's checked.
And we, like I said, we just paid, I'm gonna say the number 70,000 comes to
Yeah.
mind, where we had them come in and completely refurbish both units, and they are supposed to be there this week, I think, doing these panels.
Oh, okay, yeah, if we could just find that out, that would be nice. What else do we have, Larston, on the other tabs?
We have maintenance and we have meter, so.
So let's take a look at both of those, please. So
Well,
nothing on the meter side.
Nothing on the meter side, and the
Maintenance.
maintenance.
All right, so we've got 58,300, lift station rehab, where is this?
It's in the board package today to do the rehab of these stations.
All of those?
Yes, I believe all of them. One has already been done, and then there's 4 other ones to be done.
Okay, so we budgeted 58,300, and what's in our packet?
The current one is for 100,000, and the other ones are running, the one that was done was, probably less than 20,000.
So the inflation factor is built in as to why it looks like it does today? Am I correct in saying that?
The inflation.
You said it's 100-something thousand today?
It's about 99,000 and some change, I think, is in the
So we
board
could have
package.
done it for 58,300 in 2022?
Those were estimates done
Yeah.
in 2021 for the 22 budget.
Okay, so forklift, 75,000, did we buy it?
No, we have not purchased that.
Okay, so what would that cost today?
Well, the forklift, I'll have to get back with Jess to see if that's still necessary. The reason why I put it in the budget
Yeah.
was we had the project for all the force main piping, and we're gonna
Right.
unload a lot of pipe,
Yes,
and that was done by other equipment that we had.
okay,
So I don't know that again, I'll work closely with Jess on this, whether or not we need to spend the 75,000 for a forklift, if we've already unloaded much of that material.
And the utility truck, did we purchase a utility truck?
There are trucks to be decided today.
Right, but my question is, did we purchase a utility truck as a part of this figure?
I don't,
2022 last year,
Yes.
no, I think we purchased a truck, but not the one for maintenance.
Okay, so my point being is, again, when we've got stuff in the budget, we need to be spending it if we're putting it in the budget. Unless something happens that we come back and say, this is why we are not spending this.
So for the next board meeting, what I'm hearing is for FY '23, which is the current year,
Yes.
I didn't present that because it's current, right?
Right.
And there might be a number of things
Okay.
which we haven't decided as yet.
Right.
Probably, am I hearing that we need to make a list of what are the items that were budgeted?
I'd like to
And
see
then
that.
come
Yeah,
back
I'd
to the
like to
board
see
and
that.
have them approved to be
Approved or
Reviewed anyway.
reviewed, yes.
Right.
Because again, we're having our team go through the exercises of budgeting and asking, they're putting their needs out there, and we're not meeting their needs. And then here we are, look at what I'm calling the inflation factor from one year to the next, if we had to go back today and do this. So I
And
just.
to go back to the road, we're gonna have to fix the road. You know, eventually, we're gonna have to fix the road. Either that or rip it out and buy a road grader and grade it, you know, once a month.
Whatever did happen to that property where that,
The state's taking it back over, and that's going to,
so what I can tell you is, the boys' school,
might be another person's share.
the boys' school proper is on the governor's desk, whether or not he has signed it. He has until 1 July, whether or not he signs it. If he does, then the boys' school proper is gonna go to IRSC.
Right.
The remainder of that property is going to go from a lease from DJJ to the South Florida Water Management District, and their plans are to create that into a small STA. That's what I'm hearing now. So we talk about the construction road. I've had discussions with the Water Management District, asking them how they were gonna gain access to their property to do this construction. They talked about going in the current entrance to the boys' school. There's only one turn lane and no traffic light. And I reminded them that on Cemetery Road, there is discussion of putting a traffic light there, and if they really wanted to have construction entrance, they ought to come down Cemetery Road and go through our property. And if they're gonna go through our property, then a part of that is to improve the road.
Exactly.
That's smart.
Those are the discussions that we've had.
to deal with water mains.
I know, right?
Well, I'm not so sure it's gonna happen, but when you start talking about the truck traffic they need for construction, to me, it would seem like it would make more sense that if the county is truly putting a traffic light at Cemetery Road, Basswood Street, that turning trucks and access would be to come down Cemetery Road and through our property, as opposed to on 441, because we know everybody on 441 adheres to the traffic enforcement, and they're all doing 55 or less. We know that for a fact. And for stopping and turning trucks where there's no turn lane, it could be dangerous. And of course, they say that with a smile. We know they're not doing 55.
Can you go to the admin tab, please? So what do we have here? The master plans.
Master plan efforts are there every year. The admin office has been in and out, whether or not we were to build the building or to, which we're not going to buy another building now.
Right.
And it is the upgrade and maintenance to this building to make additions and changes as the staff grows.
So we've got the 350 allocated for restoration of this building.
Yes.
So are we able to use the other 350 as a part, since we're not,
Well, since the money was allocated out of the capital budget,
right?
I think if we're gonna do anything, what we would, since we're not buying another building, the bank building,
Right.
that it may behoove us to look at reallocation of some of those monies to go towards things that we have discussed or talked about, building a small structure at the maintenance barn area to move the meter readers from this building to there, which would free up office space here
Right.
for other personnel.
Okay, so where are we at on the restoration plans of this building? Because, you know, you shared with me earlier that we have no room for even an an assistant ED. So where are we?
So the game plan now is that the assistant finance director position that was also an HR person,
Right.
we're gonna split those two into two different tasks. And if we do have an HR person, based upon their work, they need a individual office
Right.
because of the nature of their business.
Privacy.
Very much so.
And so we have the assistant executive director position that we need to create an office space. We will have to find that in this building. We can create it. Maybe some of the space will be out front. Some of it might be in the meter reader department. We'll have to create that. And a part of that would be that we have to engage an architect or a designer, space planner to look at this footprint and come up with something.
So, I mean, where have we put anything out to bid as far as?
No, we have
getting
not done
space
anything with that yet, no,
designers?
ma'am.
Okay.
All right, so let's back up a little bit here to the moving, part of the crew down to the other building. Can we go in and front left corner of that building and do that, Jess?
Yes, sir.
Without hurting you?
Actually, one of the rainstorms last week that was come off the lake that, flooded. And I have water that deep in my office, so,
Oh, my gosh.
yes, the barn's kinda old, but yeah, you can take one of the corners. Or come out further.
Further with it?
Yes, sir.
The point I'm going to is why couldn't we put our board meeting room there and utilize this space for offices? Because everything's on here now, so the excuse of being able to run and get it doesn't fly anymore. Because we've got everything loaded right here. So we can hold our meeting wherever we want to. So why not, your small room down there, you can do your safety meetings, you can do everything in them down there.
I haven't really thought about it that way, to move a board meeting down there, but, that's something we can look at.
Because that frees up
A lot of
four
them.
offices in here. Plus, we laugh about that dead zone right there, but HR in this corner, and there's your privacy right there. There's your security. We just gotta start thinking out of the box, and we gotta start moving on some of the stuff that we plan on doing. And yeah, maybe we'll get lucky on the road. I hope we do, John. I hope it does.
Why?
But if we don't, you're looking at $1 million probably to go in there and pave that road, today's cost. You got a half mile?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so, and they charge by that much now. They don't charge by the mile anymore, they charge by the inch, or by the foot, believe me. We just did one. So, point being is, and I think Tabitha's hit on this, Ms. Trent's hit on this, is the $53,000 to refurb the plants, the lift stations, that was an estimate, we understand that. But it would have been a closer to that you base that off of something that you
Those
had.
quotes, yes.
Yeah, so, point being, if we would have pushed that through, we wouldn't be spending an additional $50,000 to get the same thing done a year later. So that's the point we're trying to make, because we have to answer for this, and for us to go back to the community and say, hey, we need 5%, and then, well, how much did you have left over last year? Well, we had 2.6. What do you need 5%? You didn't budget it tight enough.
Well, I guess, I know you're busy. I know that for a
There's no doubt that all of y'all aren't
Right,
busy pleading.
exactly, but Jamie, I mean, is this something that you would be able to help them with, making sure that this stuff gets, taken care of in the way of ordered and, yeah, absolutely. I think another set of eyes would help you because you're so busy.
Well, your knowledge too.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah.
There is, there's tons going on, but we can't we can't let other things fall to the wayside because we got this pretty new house we're building over here. The old house has still got to run, and, but I think, John, I'd like to see you or Jamie, somebody get us some kind of plan for an addition at the maintenance building, whether it's addition out front, whether it's take a corner. Let's get to talking, let's get to having some conversation with somebody instead of kicking this continually down the road.
Maybe we should start doing quarterly reviews of capital expenditures and try to get an update, and what we feel needs to be pushed or.
Absolutely.
I can add that to the board. Pat.
Great idea.
We could. But as I said, starting next board meeting, we will give a detail of FY '23 capital expenditure.
Good deal.
That'd be great. And,
Yeah. Thanks,
we'll
Harry.
try, if possible, not sure, okay, John, if we can get some estimates for what is the cost, because as you said, some are estimated as to how realistic they are. We could probably try to get current estimates or quotations.
Yes. And I think when y'all put this together, I mean, just like John, I'm sure he didn't pull that 56,000 or whatever out of his air. I mean, he had some kind of idea of where that was going. But we want to make sure that we're keeping up with this stuff. And, the big thing, and Ms. Connolly brought it up a while ago, about the increase that we had to do, where it jumped and, all this stuff we kick down the road eventually has got to happen. Well, it ends up in a pile. And pile keeps getting bigger and more expensive. I'd rather peck at, every year take certain things off that pile. This building's got to be fixed. We voted that we're not buying a building, so this building has to be fixed.
But a question of, how much money are we gonna pour into the building?
Well, we've got $700,000 that we've got total set up to do that. So.
But we don't know until we have someone to come in and take a look.
Exactly.
Because John's got ideas of how he wants to move things around. Is that gonna be conducive and functional versus what it's gonna cost to do it, or do we need to build a new building down there and start splitting folks up? So we need a space allocation review.
Well, I'm gonna regress. John, you were talking a minute ago about our property on Cemetery Road. Are you talking about where the wastewater treatment plant is?
Yes, sir.
State park.
Let me remind the board, we don't own that property. We're on a 50-year lease.
You would have to
The
bring.
elephant in the room is the fact that the state of Florida owns that. And the end is coming to have to deal with the state of Florida. Well, I mean, I've been down this road, as you well know, trying to get the title to that property from the state, because that lease renewal is not gonna be fun. And we've got a pile of money that we've put out there in that treatment plant.
Well, with what's going on the lake, they're not going to kick us out.
I don't know.
I mean, they would have to shut down the sewer system for Okeechobee to do that, to kick us out of there.
But renewing that, I'm just telling you, we tried to get the title of that property. Whether the time's right to try again, I don't know. But
At this point, it's on the governor's desk. I mean, the other parts of it's on the governor's desk. I think we had this discussion, and I could be wrong, John, but refresh my memory, that we could make it worse or we could make it better. I mean.
Well, the discussions that we had was of primary importance at the time was to get the boys' school to the county so they could build an industrial park.
Right.
That has since changed to go to IRSC, and they build an industrial park. Once that was done, then we were gonna shake the tree to see if they would be receptive to giving us the property.
I knew there was something there we had discussed.
So we were gonna take the back seat until,
Everybody else.
We were encouraged to take the back seat, weren't we?
Yes.
So
I
does
didn't
it
wanna
not
say it that
fuck up
way.
the other deal?
Yeah.
you could say it that way,
I
yeah.
knew there was some kind of language that we had had over that.
Yeah.
That would be taking over ownership because I hear what Tom's trying to say. I don't think they would make us move from the site. But that doesn't mean that the current lease, which is on 16 pages, last time I looked at it, it was up to 60 pages for these leases. And they put a lot of requirements on us to take over those leases. So the option would be, yes, we probably should own the parcel, and then we have our destiny controlled.
Well, and again, back to, like you said, they get that piece giveaway, South Florida Water Management takes the other, then that's, I think, like you say, perfect time to go in and say, hey, what about us?
So it is looking forward, something that we may be able to start pursuing next legislative session.
Yeah, it's because that's all supposed to be done in the next month. So that would put us in the driver's seat for next year.
Well, the roadmap has already been established on how to do it.
And with current administration is the time to do it, I think. I would hope. Okay. All right.
So to kind of get back to it, I think our next plan is to engage the space planner, whether it's a builder, whether it's an architect, and look at this building and see what our needs are. And then part of that would be, if we move the meter readers out, the project was where the pavilion is right now for vehicles, was to add a building on to the south end of that building that would incorporate the meter reading department. If Jess has area underneath the existing structure, fine, we can look at that. Last time I saw it, it was all pretty much
Full.
utilized. So I don't know what he'd be willing to give up to put in a space, but we can work through that with the maintenance department to see how that would operate, and that would free up. If this is a new idea that you're bringing up today to move the board meeting room down there, that's fine. And we can do that, and it obviously would free up a lot of floor space here. I will tell you, one day a month in the morning, this building is utilized right here for this meeting. The rest of the month, I can't tell you the number of meetings that we hold right here in this room. So it is fully utilized during the month. It doesn't sit vacant, but to make office space, HR, whomever, it would free up a lot of space.
And it's 3 miles to the water plant, so,
Would we ever consider possibly renting one of the empty buildings down the block?
I don't know.
I mean,
I just,
look at the cost of it,
Right.
rent something for a little period of time
well,
versus going out and spending.
well, you're not gonna rent it you're gonna have to rent it for long term because you're not ever gonna go back.
Right. But it was, what I'm trying to think of is meeting room, meet a people
Yeah.
versus going, spending.
That's good, I mean, that's a
Wait,
good
just a-
suggestion, good
just a-
idea.
It's a 30 by 40 building 2 months ago, 160 mile an hour winds, with roll up doors, could we doing it, was 40 grand. That was for the good one. For the cheaper one, 22 grand. We don't want the cheaper one. The other one is they're both rated the same, but one's red iron and one's not. One's a building like you have, one's one of these Carolina deals. So my point is your 40 grand, that's concrete and all, for a 1,200 square foot room. Nothing in it, so you're gonna double that by the time you done, drywall and put a bathroom and stuff in it. The point, so.
Cost to rent versus
Yeah, I mean, it's not on that red iron, and plus you already got one side. You extend it out, if you've done that, if you extend it out, you've got one side of the building there. And to Jess's deal, we could always raise the floor 6 inches or so on the new piece and make sure that the water always goes to his office. But again, I think that, for a couple $100,000 or less, you can put a building, you can do your addition down there and have what you need in the future. So, just something we need to look at. We got 10 acres sitting there next door. It's not like we're landlocked. So, eventually, I know we talked about the building, the bank and all that stuff. I mean, if you're gonna spend that kind of money, I'd rather see you build what you want. But with construction costs on that particular style of building, unless you go in and build something like the jail, and of course, that thing's 20-something million. The steel buildings right now are still the best way to go as far as expense. They're not the prettiest things in the world. But I still like your idea, John, of moving your meter readers down there. Whether or not we move to boardroom or not, that's different. But I think we need to look at that at least and free up some space here.
Space planner's gonna give us that direction, whether it's architect, excuse me,
Well, we need to-
builder, but somebody that is in that business can tell us.
We also need to give the space person our ideas of what we're thinking and show them what we have down there.
Yeah, just like we did the celery deal.
Yeah. So, okay, we need to move on? Yep. Item agenda number 24, the audit, the service contract. I think we went over this last month about extending their deal for another 2 years at the same rate. Is that correct?
Yep.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion by Mrs. Trent,
Second.
second by Mr. Nelson. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on to 25, employee classification and compensation survey. So, John, I guess we've got 3 here, and they're ranked Evergreen, Perilla, and Cody. Is that how you ranked them?
That's the way the board ranked them, yes, sir.
Oh, that's right, we did this
Yeah,
last
we
time.
did.
And so all we brought back to you today, what we were tasked with doing, was to go back and develop a scope of work and a fee schedule with the number one ranked firm to see if we could get it, and that's what you're up to today, to see whether this scope of work meets the direction, ideas of the board, and then the accompanying fee schedule for that work. And if y'all give us the green light, what we're operating against is to try to get this all done and said by first part of September.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve as presented by staff recommendation.
Have a motion by Mrs. Trent.
One question, if I may. Where my concern came in last time, with respect of being that they're all the way up in Tallahassee.
You need a second before you can.
Yeah, we gotta have that before we have discussion.
To get on
I'll
the board.
Second.
second.
Al, any discussion?
Who's the second?
Who's the second?
Mr. Nelson.
Okay. How many Zoom meetings is this organization going to have versus being physically in our facility?
Well, the work plan calls for 2 on-site meetings. And that was the question I had asked. He said, Jeff, the presenter, said that 2 should be sufficient. However, if they require additional, they will. That was what he had said.
Will be additional Zoom meetings or?
No, that was
No.
on-site. There's 2 on-site meetings. Those 2 on-site meetings could be multiple days. So it's not like they're here one day and they're trying to get
Mhm.
there. It could be
Right.
multiple. But in between that, I mean, we could reach out to them and have Zoom meetings. Yes.
Because there's a assigned project person from them who is assigned to us. So anything we could reach out and have questions.
But they will be here multiple days,
Yeah.
twice, and then they will come back, and any questions or anything else we would do through Zoom.
Yeah.
But they also said that they would come back if need.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was.
Sure.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item agenda number 26, emergency repair to pump station SE3. John?
So SE3, we do have a leak in some discharge piping. It was deemed an emergency, so I went ahead and authorized the work to get it repaired, and this is brought back to the board after the fact, hoping that you'll support the repair effort that staff has gone through and gotten done.
Which one's SE3?
Where is that?
Taylor Cove, isn't that the one behind SunTrust, or Truist Bank?
Oh, okay,
Behind
okay.
the
Okay,
church
yeah.
there's a one road.
Right.
It only has maybe, 8, 10 houses on it?
So what happened? I mean, what happened to the pipe?
Must have, sewer gases ate it up. It's probably, I'd say it's a 1970 something, early 80 something.
Probably at least 40-plus years old.
Wow.
So is that
Bruce?
internal, external?
Internal.
Ground. The pumps gather the sewer up and push it up 2 pipes, which goes in our force main. Well, those 2 up stacks, one of them is blowed out, so you have to turn that pump off. So it's running off 1 pump and 1 up stack till we get the other fixed.
It was an internal leak within the pump station, it wasn't on the ground.
So
Well,
you
you-
couldn't have seen it, is my question?
No.
You couldn't have seen it leaking?
Not till it
Not
bust.
until it, okay, that's
Yeah.
what I was
They,
curious about.
all the older stations like that have all that decay on them,
Yeah.
all of them.
And that's the thing, that those gases are, oh,
Well, it's hydrogen sulfide.
Yeah.
So it's sulfuric acid,
Corrosive, yeah, very
basically.
corrosive.
And all of the piping, all of the concrete can have protective coatings, but they fail at the same time.
eventually, gases
So
will
part of
eventually.
the repairs that you will see, they go in and sandblast the concrete, clean it up, and we actually put a coating on it.
Sealer
to
on it.
Protect the concrete, and the piping, we've gone to HDPE piping rather than ductile iron. So there's things that we do to give them another 20, 30 years worth of life.
So is that part of our maintenance program?
The maintenance program is, sometimes these are all rehabilitated,
Right.
or they might be cleaned in a new coating, yes. This was found when they have the maintenance program where they go by all the lift stations and get data like the runtime, wash them down and look at them, the leak was discovered.
All right, I need a motion.
So has this work been done, John, or?
Already been done, yes, sir.
Already been done, so this is a
Well, no,
ratification?
planned. But we signed a PO, and we've already issued a PO. The work is to be done.
To be done.
You're not ratifying an action that's been taken.
I believe the.
Approval of the contract.
So you're ratifying I issued a PO, giving it the contractor to get started with the work.
All right, so I need a motion stating that we issued a PO to Max Environmental LLC for $19,825.
So said.
Have a motion by Mr. Nelson. Need a
Second.
second. Second by Mrs. Trent. Any discussion?
What are we approving?
The emergency repair.
We're just approving the emergency expenditure.
Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah.
Gary. Correct.
It hasn't been done, but he's already sent the PO out. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Excuse me. Number 27. This is for the wastewater pumps, stations.
The pump station listed 18, 4, and 13 in the budget to have that same rehab done to them before they leak, which goes in and they sandblast and clean the concrete and coat it, replace the upstacks, basically refurbish. I mean, there's not new pumps or the new bases, right? New bases if needed for the pumps, and just to rehab them. And it's 4 stations, NW18, NW4, SW13. The other one was already completed.
Okay, so,
Go ahead.
was this, and excuse the way I'm gonna put this, was this reactionary because of what happened with the other one, or is this already in a maintenance schedule?
These were already budgeted items that were getting done.
Oh, for 21?
Well, they were carried over for several years, but they're in this year's budget, and they're being done for
So are
the,
we doing this because of what happened to the other was my question?
It
Even though-
eventually will happen, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Jess.
All right, my question is, why is the Hinterland Group so much more expensive than the
Yeah.
Max Environmental?
They say with the same sheet, list the numbers on what work has to be accomplished, and they're too big. So that's their numbers that we only come to work for.
Okay, that makes sense.
To get anybody else to give pricing, you can see the documentation.
Yeah.
Phone calls and phone calls.
people are busy.
People are very busy, and again, at least to give you, I don't wanna do it price.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just gonna stay on the list.
Yeah, hey, All right, so I need a motion to approve the expenditure to Max Environmental for $99,271 for the repairs to NW 18, NW 4, and SW 3.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion by Mrs. Trent,
Second.
second by Mr. Nelson. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on to 28. Pine Ridge Park change order, which this is something we discussed last month, that, one of the companies, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, one of the companies come in at this $1.2 million or $1.4 million or something like that to do this same work?
Your favorite group, Hinterland Group, is contracted to do this work in Pine Ridge Park. They're our
Right.
contractor. Almost 10 months ago.
Okay, I got it,
Change
yeah.
ordered out this work because the bid price came in higher than the money we had attributed for it. So to make it kind of balanced fiscally, we decided we would take this work out. We would have the money. We hope we get additional funds from another source, which we have. And so we would like to change order the work back in. Our two choices are, we go out and bid it independently by ourselves. We go out and find contractors to do the work, or we get the current contractor that originally bid the work to do it. They came back with some high prices and extensive time limits, and we basically said that, if you had a markup of 15%, overhead profit, you're inflationary, that might be acceptable, but not the 20 or 25. I think I sent out emails to that effect.
Yeah.
They came back with this quote that they would do it for the 942 and additional 150 calendar days to their contract.
So what's staff approval? Okay, approval is authorization.
Our recommendation is, we have the one contractor out there that's done all the other work. Hinterland, they have equipment, personnel. I would say that it's what we had to do. We had to change order out. We had to, to balance it. We've got to put it back in. I think it is the most favorable response to have that same contractor do the work. The only things is, we will extend their contract by 150 days, because if it was in their contract, they would have already done this work. Now
Right.
they're nearing completion.
They gotta
They
go
need a
back.
contract extension. Understand that with the contract extension, we would have to extend the engineering group to oversee this for another 150 days. So there will be some additional cost with what used to be Eckler, it's now CHA Engineering. We will have that, but I think this is probably our best choice right now for this.
It's having to bite the bullet, and,
Right.
I mean,
Because you don't know what you're gonna get, and you throw it back out there.
yeah,
A lot of negotiating, I mean, back and forth.
and the time it's gonna take to do all that.
Take, and, yeah. All right, I need a motion to approve the change order, for for $818,942.65, and increase the, the 150 calendar days on the contract.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Mullenhour, need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nelson, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right. Perimeter fence. John,
So-
we asked for this, and because we don't have any security down there at all. So, it looks like Adrian is 164,000 plus 5,000.
15, 16.
I'm saying 16,000 for the automatic opening system. Joby Fencing is 181, and with 5,000 included for gate operations, and CD Ag Services is 150,000, no comment on gate operations.
So my discussions with Adron, the fence automatic gate opening is going to be a wireless unit that would be able to call, say, the operator, a water plant operator upstairs. It has an automatic exit feature, bury a wire in the asphalt that would not require attendant operations of the gate. Keypad, card reader, I mean, there's things that they would provide. Well, what we'll have to do is provide the electric to that unit. But it is going to be an automatic gate. So what we would have to do is, we just have to make sure the wireless functions will work to get upstairs, for external to the gate, operations of the gate.
They actually work very good. Mark Hunter's had one down there for 15 years probably on his gate. Little old,
They do work very good.
yeah, little old
Okay.
cord buried across
I
the
got
deal to let
cord.
you out,
Mhm.
Yeah, but the question, seems a little bit high. It's a single gate, correct?
It's a single gate, but it's very big. It's like 20 plus.
Huge gate. It's gotta be, either it's gotta,
I know, it's just.
or,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're all right there together.
They work well. I mean, we've had mine for 20-some odd years, and it's the same Viking. It's a good company.
I mean, we're going to be trying to utilize some of the older fence where it's there and tie into it, the older chain link fence with the barbed wire, replacing the field wire fence in the other areas. It will be completely fenced in with chain link and barbed wire strands.
And the thing too is, folks, this is the whole 10 acres.
There's just a manual gate in the back then?
Existing is a manually controlled gate, yes.
And this is moving the gate back so the trucks can get off the road.
It'll be moving it back to that space between the tank and the building where you have to have room for the if it's a bifold door or if it's a sliding door, you have to have 20 feet of room, for that gate to go back. So we'll have to make room somewhere.
And then, I brought this up to you yesterday. I was asked a question by a county personnel, do we have a drone no-fly zone over our facilities?
No, as I talked about, we only wanted the thing painted.
No, I mean, I was
There
asked
may
that
be-
question, and I was like, no, I don't think so, but can we do that? And they said, absolutely, you can do
You
that.
can, as a drone flyer, there may be an FAA statute, but there is somebody from the FAA living in Okeechobee that can answer that question for us.
But again, I was asked, do you have that? And I said,
You're not allowed to.
we don't have a fence.
So we can take care of both, is what we can do. So do we need a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to
Beth, I'm gonna
award
make it.
the perimeter fence for the water treatment plant to Adrian Fence for a total of $164,581 plus the additional $15,696 for the automatic gate opening device.
I have a motion, need a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Nelson. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Motion carries. So John, let's move forward with getting our facility taken care of.
Well, this is again, the three facilities in question. Groundwater plant is mostly fenced. I think all of the wellheads are fenced that are active, so I don't think there's much there. Whether or not we need to get an automatic gate there would be the question, at the groundwater plant. And then, of course, the big item will be the next one, the wastewater plant. And, one direction I need from the board, we're getting quotes now for the facility itself because of the electric, the equipment, the open tankage, the whole accident, terrorist, negligent. What about the ponds?
The ponds, you got a fence. It's like a swimming pool.
Well, I mean, it's one of those issues. I mean,
So, and we've been very fortunate.
I mean.
We haven't had anybody plundering and stumbling around over there.
We've had trespassers, especially when it was the school, and,
Well, they're passing
clients.
through.
Well, some of them their clients came through our property. They saw lights and, they came through. So we've had, poachers, people chasing some deer and whatever. I mean, so it can happen. There are some fences out there, most of them field wire fences, not chain link with barbed wire. So if we need to fence the ponds, they're big ponds.
Yeah, so you're looking at what, 10 acres, 20 acres?
Oh, it would probably be closer to 30 acres fence with a chain link.
With the ponds?
Yes, sir, with the ponds. There's two of them, two big ones.
Yeah, I'd go get a price.
You want it with an alternate? You want pond only, or you want the whole thing, or?
Not all together.
Well, right now, to answer your question, Tom, I've got two quotes for the treatment plan itself. Now I'm gonna go back and modify it to add the ponds. So you actually would get two quotes if you wanted them that way.
I'd split them up.
I mean, because I already got two, so I mean, I'm gonna have to go back and supplement those two to add them.
The thing you don't want to do, though, is have a divider fence between your plant and your ponds.
We have gates for that.
But my point is, why pay for the chain link? Encompass the whole thing in one area.
Well, it's sort of like this one.
Yeah, instead of, yeah.
It's sort of like the surface water treatment plant. This is not added fencing, because I would have to put it here anyway.
Right.
My added fencing was here.
And there.
And there was all that was added by putting in the west fence line. So with the wastewater plant, yeah, okay, what would have been the west fence line between the plant and the ponds moves out, but you got the long sides going out the ponds that we would have to fence in. But we can manage that. It's just gonna be, this was pricey, that's gonna be even more. But when you get down to that statement of terroristic activities, accidents, negligence, what is that value?
I'm more interested in a kid falling in myself. And there's no value on that.
Well, it's a lot more than the 600,000 or whatever the fence is gonna cost.
Yeah,
And then the pain and suffering you never pay.
yeah, you can't pay that. Okay, so
It'll be back at the next meeting.
okay. All right, thanks, John. Moving on to number 30, this is the great pickup battle that we can't find.
Well, so you can see the long list of different vendors that have either expressed interest in the past on providing us quotes through the Sourcewell, through Sheriff's contract. They were all contacted for the FY '23 budget vehicles that are in the budget. But if the lead time for ordering vehicles is 6 months, 12 months, my point being, should we go ahead and consider ordering the '24 budget vehicles that you are now considering being able to add them to the mix? So it was this total of 7 vehicles. You have them all listed here. You have the pricing. All the manufacturers were given the same budget constraints to vote, to provide pricing on a vehicle, utility body. if there were tow packages or locking rear differential, the type of engine, all of them were given the same thing to bid around. They were asked to either bid off a contract if they could order the vehicle, or if they had a retail vehicle on their property, give us a quote on that. Yes, we understand that it may not have all of the options, but they have a vehicle on their property. So the added 24, which you may or may not want to consider, would be adding Unit 406, 409, and 517. So, looking at the first vehicle for 11, which is a meter reader truck, this is to be able to go out and replace one that in our fleet. We had between Bossard Ford and Gilbert Ford, here are the two prices, and consider that against the budgetary pricing. You'll see that later, what we had thought it was going to cost versus today's cost. And then Unit 513 for the maintenance department. Again, whether it's a double cab or whether they have a crew cab or a super crew cab.
Okay, I got you. So the difference in the Gilbert is one's a Super Crew at 48, and the other at Bizarre is a regular cab at 32.
Yes, sir. They gave us some, I didn't want to limit what they might have
Have on the,
site.
yes.
Okay? But you can see that there were a lot of differences there on some of the options, whether it was a third key or spray-on liner, trailer tow. There's things that they could have bid, some did, some didn't. And you can see the price difference on that particular vehicle. And then on 406, it goes through, if you want me to go through all these details.
No.
Gilbert and Bossard Gilbert Ford and Bossard were the two that kind of responded on a lot of these.
Go back to that 513 now. You said here those are cheaper, it looked like Gilbert's cheaper.
If you take out these options to get down to the base, so that you can compare an apple to an apple, Bossard is cheaper than Gilbert. If you take out, some of the options that Gilbert didn't. And the same, we go through all of these units. If you want me to, we can go through them and look at them, but they're in your board package, and you get down here to the bottom. Again, some of the pricing is coming in much more than what was originally conceived, an idea. That's primarily because they cannot order them anymore. It's something that's on their lot, and I don't know if, you're going in and buying a vehicle now. They're expensive. So my recommendation would be that we just go ahead and purchase the two that are listed, 411 and 513, and we wait for the portal to open for the manufacturers, which is supposed to be sometime this summer. But there's no guarantee that the prices will be any better. And the other thing to consider is by ordering a truck in July and August, you're still going to wait till January, February for the trucks to come in. Can they wait? Well, we can wait. The trucks need to be replaced, but it's hard to look at those vehicles and know that you're spending right now buying a retail truck as opposed to Sourcewell or the Sheriff's Department spending $20,000+ more dollars. The trade-off is the vehicles are here now.
And we don't know, and again, John, you brought this up when I made a call. It looks like the manufacturers are going to do what you said and start cutting down the amount of vehicles that they're putting on the state bids because of the inventory issues, and they get more money for them doing this.
They get a lot more money. And most of the vendors that I talked to, I shouldn't say most, a group of them, said that the availability, say like for the sheriff's contract or Sourcewell, government bid, is going to be cut because they can make more money on the retail market. It's a supply and demand issue. If they cut back the supply, the demand is there, price goes up.
Well, the one thing that you could also do is you can tell them what you're looking for and just have them locate it and see, I mean, not, you don't need it tomorrow. Let's say, hey, you know, Gilbert's or, was it Buzard? Buzard?
Ozark out of, St. Augustine area.
But anyway, hey, these are the other vehicles we need.
Oh, they all got every one of these.
But my point is can you locate, can you do a weekly locator to see if you can find these vehicles?
Oh, and again, I asked, I said, it could be through a contract, it could be on your lot somewhere. And like Gilbert, it was, doesn't necessarily have to be a Ford, you got a Chevrolet dealership, or Allen J. You got a lot of, we're open at this
They
point.
didn't say anything back.
They did on some other trucks, but they just vaporized. And they have a lot of dealerships. So the only way different that I could see that we could do, and I did not do it on this case, we have advertised not OnStar, Command Star. And it goes out to all kinds of dealerships, more than just the 7 or 9 that I have listed here.
You realize this is a 7.3 gas engine? No. I just get rid of a 6.6. Nice truck.
This is 7.3.
Yeah, it's that new Ford 7.3. And that F-350.
Well, the two they're looking at, the 411 and the 513, but that other one is.
Yeah, my point is these 7.3s, jury's still out on them. They replaced the 6.2, which was a very good engine, but a very expensive engine. John, I'm not so sure I wouldn't send back out for a base diesel, just to see.
We've purchased diesels in the past. What's your thought on the diesels, Jess?
Well, the reason years ago we went to diesels, then we found out when we would pull our trailers with our mini excavators, just because you had a diesel don't mean the brakes were any better or anything like that. We know that we were getting 10+ years out of a truck. So we were like, do we really need the diesel? Because that was the repetition of the diesel will outlast the gas. But the way that we drive them, it's nip and tuck. I mean, we've got gas motors that lasted as long as diesel motors. We didn't want to pay that $10,000 up front just to have a diesel because we couldn't justify it on the end.
Well, you getting ready to get a lesson here on the 7.3 that nobody else is. You know, if you notice, they're starting to show back up with 8,000-9,000 miles on them on the dealerships for trade. And the reason I know that,
That's usually a sign.
yeah. And again, I just got rid of that 6.6 I had. Nice truck. If I drove it from the house to the car wash and back, which is only like 4 blocks, it got about 7.5. And if I run to Rogers and around town and all, I could get it up to 12. It got 17 on the highway, but they're very, very expensive.
Is it gas or diesel?
Gas. Is that new gas? It's a nice truck, you know.
So if the dog's out there on a 7.3 that it hasn't proven itself, that's no problem.
Well, then you got to go. Then you're going to go with the 6.6 and gas on Chevrolets, and they're going to be expensive. Again, I would throw it out there and just see. It's going to jump 10 grand, I know, 8 grand anyway. But I would see what the availability is. And let me tell you something else. These half-tons, these new half-ton diesels, are getting around town 24 miles a gallon. Butler's got one. Walpole's got a fleet of them. Them little half-ton diesels, and you pay up for them, but the mileage is off the charts with them. So there's things that we need to be looking at.
That's the upfront cost for the difference
Yeah,
in the engine.
Yeah.
That's the,
yeah, and that truck's gonna run,
and you can't wear that diesel out hardly, the
and
engine.
especially on a meter reader, you know, running around here, two-wheel drive on these, I mean, that thing lasts for, and again, I'm not trying to get them to last forever, but it'll have a 15-year life cycle, easy.
So what's your action on the recommendation?
I don't know, I'm just throwing my thoughts out. But we gotta buy pickups, we don't have no choice.
We do, and again, we're gonna be meeting with a company on the 27th. There we go, thank you, sir. Jess and Jamie and I have been working through this, that does leasing options.
Well, Ag Lands, they don't own any of their equipment. Their semis, their service trucks, their, and I'm not saying it's the right route to go, but it's definitely a route to look at.
We're gonna have a meeting with them on the 27th to see, is it gonna be advantageous for us?
The one-
So what I would, again, it kind of falls in with this, we've got two good, what are reasonable, close quotes, for 411 and 513. Let's go ahead and purchase those, and then all the rest of them, we put them back on the block, we talk with Enterprise. Maybe we wait till this window opens, if we get a better idea for July, we can order the vehicles with diesel, there's other options open to us.
Yeah, let's,
That's what I think, is we need to table it.
well, I see what he's saying, these vehicles are available today, and they won't be available next month.
So those that, are we in a pinch that we have to have the two vehicles?
I'm gonna say at least, I know from the spec meter reading, as far as the purchase of 513, Jess,
Jess, what are you're driving what's the year model of your truck?
2000.
Our maintenance director's driving a 2000 pickup that he drug out
But
of the weeds the other day.
I gave it to, because the other guy's truck was a piece of junk.
Right.
And I said,
that's not the word you use with me.
So, but, it can last, it can wait. Plus, since I'm a Chevy guy and it looks like Fords are the guys that won, I'd rather wait.
Yeah, and I was wondering if we were having maintenance issues, or,
Meter reader truck is bad. I would at least say we need to go forward with 411.
We take care of all the extra trucks that's in my department. So we have one utility extra truck, one Blazer, and, yeah, we have one utility, and it's old. We have the Zuzu, which is our other crane truck, and then we have the Blazer. So whatever department breaks down, they come and get one of the ones that we take care of, maintain.
What year's the Blazer? It's the Trailblazer.
The vehicle I liked. It's still a good car, by the way.
Chevy, may I add?
It is a good car.
it is.
So, the 411 and 513, the reason why I'm saying that, yes, it's higher than what we had budgeted, but at least it's within, you can still see it. It's only $7,000 or $8,000 more. It's not $25,000. I don't know that my pricing with Enterprise or the pricing with the portal open is gonna be any better than that. 25,000, I hope we're better. But 7,000 or 8,000, I don't know, and I think it's, again, the recommendation, we move forward with the purchase of those two vehicles, and then we go back to the drawing board for all the rest of them.
So, all right, so we know we need a meter reader truck, and that's very important to us.
They're used every day, a lot of miles.
How long are these bids good for?
I don't know that answer, I did not ask.
Because you're gonna meet with Enterprise on the 27th of this month,
Yes, ma'am.
so,
Well, these are trucks that are on the lot. So
Right.
once these are gone, that bid goes away.
yeah, no.
They're not holding them
That's
for
what I'm
us.
asking, so, okay.
I mean, they can be gone tomorrow.
All right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm gonna throw something out there. We know we need the other one, and we've got a guy that's been with us 27 years, and Chevrolet is the cheaper truck. So why not buy the Ford, what is it? Is it a Ford? The regular cab from Bizarre?
Both of them were Fords.
Okay, buy the regular cab from Bozard, or however you say that, and then buy the Chevrolet at 42,251 from Gilbert's.
But it doesn't have the same options.
I know it doesn't, but you've got a man sitting here that's been with you 27 and a half years.
I'm just making sure that.
Yeah.
Ready to go. It's ready to go. They're ready.
And it's ready to go, it's sitting there.
No, 513 is not yours.
Is 513 just?
Yeah, 513's Jess's, it's the four-wheel drive extended kit.
I'm 501, but that's when I'm giving my truck, I've done been asked, to the water plant, because they need a pickup truck. So even though it's 23 years old, it's not going in the trash.
So, but unit 513 is your pickup.
I'm going to drive it, yes.
Yes.
So are we on the same page? Because I thought I heard somebody say 531. I'm confused. Which one are we doing? We need a clear,
Yeah, is this for him?
Yes,
513 is for you.
yes.
513's for him. Answer the question.
My maintenance supervisor says he's gonna take it, so yes, I agree with him.
Okay.
Please
But
clear
by
it.
the numbers, 513 was supposed to be something else, but,
Okay, well, as
Okay.
long as, okay, so,
All right, I need a motion to approve the two purchases.
Motion to approve.
oh, but,
we need to clarify which one.
yeah, there we go.
Okay.
513.
And 411.
411 was from Buzzard Ford for 39,253.
And
Is that-
Chevrolet,
And 513 is gonna be 42,251 from
Gilbert's.
Gilbert Chevrolet.
That's your recommendation.
It is this
Those-
morning.
So we're clear, correct, Tom?
Well, I was trying to see if I could simplify it and say we approve the recommendation, but I'm.
I think we got it.
Okay, so I have a motion, who motioned?
I did.
Steve did.
Steve made the motion that we buy the Ford from Bizarre for 39,253. We buy the Chevrolet from Gilbert's at 42,251. I need a second.
Second,
Need any more discussion?
please no.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
So just for, who was one and two on that? Steve was one? Who- Tabitha was second?
Public comments?
So, I'll bring back after we have the meeting with Enterprise and how we're gonna do the other vehicle.
Okay,
Yes.
sounds good, Chuck.
And I'd actually reach out and get pricing on
Diesel.
the diesels, especially the half tons.
We'll work through that.
I mean, because those things, like I say, they're getting 23 and 24 miles a gallon running around town. Of course, now I've got that 2.7 in mine. I've had two of those, and I'm getting like 17 in town.
What do we do about pulling if we don't get like the bigger engines, the bigger trucks?
We're gonna get bigger
About
trucks.
pulling
We'll have no choice. We just got to figure out who we're getting them from.
Yep, we'll work on that, we'll bring it back.
Yeah. Again, Tommy Trimble could tell us, I don't think they own anything at Ag Lands. I think everything they have, all their service trucks with the bodies and everything are on leases.
Well, my latest, conversation with the sheriff's department is they have 27 trucks that's on 1 year. But now with the supply issue, they're getting them longer than 1 year. They do not own them, they pay a service contract, and he told me they haven't bought a truck or vehicle like in 5 years. Now, before the prices went up, they would lease it and then sell it back to them, and they were actually getting more money for them than they originally paid for them the year before.
I knew City was doing that.
Well, and he said they built a big cush fund there for a while. He said now it's about even, but he said they are turning them back in and not costing them a dime.
Cop car in, not cost you any money. Okay, well, let's find out.
All right.
We'll have the meeting.
All right, no public comments? Items from the attorney?
The only thing, chairman knows about this, and I've been talking to the, county attorney. At Okeechobee, there's some confusion, and I don't think there should be, but there appears to be some type of confusion about the ownership of that one 3/4 acre piece of property where our plant is. It's pretty clear that when this was done, the only thing that the OUA was supposed to own are the improvements, the facilities, the treatment facilities, the piping and whatnot. And the problem is the word deed appears in some of these documents. Property appraiser's office has picked that up, and it's assessing the OUA as the owner. It has been. But the OUA doesn't own the fee title, the underlying land. There may be, apparently this has come up as a title issue, some kind of a title commitment that involved in the transfer from the county or the sale by the county to Bass Pro. They probably are gonna want some kind of document from the OUA clarifying that we do not own the underlying land, never have. Reading all the documents, I mean, I don't know why that would appear as a title exception or an impediment that would prevent that transaction from closing. What I would suggest would be that the board authorize the execution of a quitclaim deed or some document that would definitely clarify that the OUA doesn't claim any ownership in the land, but it does not release its ownership of the improvements that are there, the facilities, or an easement for access to that. Now, what that document would look like, I don't know, because I have been talking to the county attorney about that. It would probably be in the form of a quitclaim deed that would have language in there about what we are not releasing. Because we do own the facility. We've been operating the facility and the access to it. So I would suggest, if you want to do it, I haven't seen the document yet, that the board authorize the execution of a document to clarify the fact that the OUA has no interest in the land itself. But I want before that's executed, I would say it'd be subject to my approval.
And again, the documents I handed you this morning.
I'd already seen those, yes, yes.
And I'm sure you had, but that was ones that were sent to me by their staff.
Yeah. And we don't claim the ownership of the land. We never have claimed the ownership of the land. But it looks like we own it when you look at the property appraiser's records.
And they agree with what you just said, but they just need to see it in writing.
Something that clarifies it. I frankly don't think that it's necessary, because the documents look like they tried to go to extra lengths to show that. But if some other document is necessary, then I would recommend, if I approve it, because I don't want to give up something that we really do have.
Why don't you put it together?
They're going to be submitting it to me, because if I do it, I don't want to have to do it 5 or 6 times to.
I got you.
To appease.
All right, so we need a motion to execute a quitclaim deed on the piece of property at
Okeechobee,
depending upon your approval.
On approval of council, yes.
So if I can add one thing, we would have to go back and look at it, just to confirm from a regulatory standpoint that we can do this. Because we do have a treatment plant there.
We do, that's what I'm
It's all
saying.
permitted through DEP, and it may be predicated on what the department says about the ownership. Now, let me be careful about that. We already talked about this morning that we don't own the property at Cemetery Road. But the difference there is it's one governmental agency to another. And
But if-
we're under lease with the state.
But if you read this document, it's pretty clear that we don't own the dirt.
Okay, well, that's very much, I'm just suggesting to you that we need to clarify that through our permitting constraint. What you're saying may be true, but we may still have been in violation of DEP requirements all these years, and we didn't know it.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So we just need to clarify that.
But at the end of the day, they're gonna move it.
Right.
Whatever, we're gonna put the pipe in there, the lift station's not gonna go at the front gate, and
Well, if I'm putting all that money into it, I don't want the first thing that I see at the entrance
exactly.
is a pump station.
Yeah, and they wanna get the clarity on that so that they can make the.
So we clearly understand, even if we owned it, I would have thought at some point in time, we would be having a discussion with them
Hey,
on a
we'll give you-
land swap.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to pull into Okatani Campground, and the first thing you see is a treatment plant.
But we don't own the land. We have never owned the land, and the documents to me are clear. Why it would be a title, objection, I have no idea. I mean, I did closings, I did real estate for years and years and years. And to me, it's clear that we don't own that 1 3/4. We do own the facilities on it. We do own the treatment plant, the piping and all of that stuff.
So let me ask this question, did you go back at the creation document for the OUA?
Yes.
You looked at that, and what did the county transfer to us per Okatani in 1995?
I've got copies of them here.
Did you look at when the OUA was created, and the city transferred ownership, the county transferred beach water, did we look at those documents to make sure there was not something clear in there that said we own the property?
A short answer is yes.
But at the end of the day, we don't want the property. We don't wanna hold this project up.
No, no.
Well,
We're not, I wouldn't be giving up anything that we already own.
what to say was, well, that was always thought that a treatment plant or a pump station at the entrance is not conducive to that property. And that we thought we would have this discussion anyway, if it wasn't a title search, that we would be moving.
This is similar to the situation we had. The problem here, the problem child,
Bring that name up.
you know which one I'm trying to say?
Rockies Mobile Home Park?
Yeah. The treatment plant is located, it's a permanent facility on that property. We walked away from it. When you build a structure on a piece of real estate, the structure becomes part of the real estate. Your house, you don't get a separate deed for your house. Your house is on a lot. The description is Lot A of subdivision so-and-so. That includes all permanent fixtures that's on that lot. This treatment plant is the same way, and when the county conveyed what it was doing a bill of sale for the facility that was located on that 1 3/4 acres. Wasn't giving us a deed. Wasn't giving us a deed. One of my basic premises is the fact that I think governmental entities ought to cooperate with one another. We need something from the county, they should be willing to deal with us. They need something from us, we swapped with them on the tower structure on our Farrell property. This is,
Same thing.
we should not stand in the way and carry any kind of blame for stopping the Okatani deal.
I agree.
I mean, that,
So what's the motion, Mr. Tom?
that any document needed to clarify the titles of the ownership of the Okatani property. I'm sorry, let me start that again. That the OUA authorize the execution of any document necessary to clear title of the ownership of the OUA facility at Okatani.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Have a motion by Mrs. Trent,
Second.
second by Mr. Nelson. Any more discussion? All those in
I would
favor?
Approve that document,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
that lays the groundwork now, so that way I don't have to come back and deal with you guys on.
All right, John?
Well, we already briefly talked about the city council meeting, which I'll go to tonight, and the upcoming, I'll get a clarification on the county moratorium. The two biggest issues that I need to make sure we are aware of, both these are on the Southwest Service Area, Project 1, that the pump station and the force main have gone over their contracted period. Force main for obvious, for the reasons of the tortoise farm that we found and whatever. The pump station tied into that, it kind of corresponds with it. But Jeff Sumner with Sumner Engineering has assured me that at the next meeting, all of that documentation will be brought to the board for the appropriate discussions and actions, which will probably could include a change order for the time and a change order for the clarification of any pricing, and we'll be closing up over this project. They're really good looking. The pump station is very happy with the outcome. Project 2, we made mention, we did get a letter out. First, 2 letters required, identifying the project to each property owner. 500 something letters going out here. We have the community meeting set up for next Tuesday, and you're more than inclined to meet if you would like to go to that meeting. As a attendee, not as a, any kind of a part of the process. Jeff Sumner will be putting that on. So it'll be a good public town hall meeting. The work is started. We're having some starting problems, making sure that the contractor gets the word out to each of the property owners that we're going to be on your road this week. There will be interruptions to vehicular traffic, driveways, but it's part of the growing pain that they have to go through and establish that procedure.
I thought Mr. Hoover was supposed to be the lead on that.
He is. The problems we had on Monday and Tuesday, Jeff's out of town, Joey's out of town in Alabama, Clint's on vacation, so John Habert's been getting the calls.
It's not your fault.
It is, well,
Over there, what's the butler that fishes, what's his name? Butch Butler, and Roy Thomas was on the front porch of the day supervising all the crew.
So
Roy?
So it is, I mean, we have to go through it, but I mean, it's the start of the process. We know we're going to get calls on a day-to-day basis. Why can't the pit be here and not there? And it's something that our field people are supposed to do. It will handle, but it's a big project, so we'll get a lot of that. But it's going on. They are moving along. It looks like a war zone. There's people everywhere, lots of equipment. But it is moving along. So Project 2 is happening. All the rest of them, Southwest Fifth Avenue, we know we're holding on that till we get the connection policy. And Treasure Island, I've got their early preliminary design report already handed to me about pump stations, vacuum pump station locations, starting that early design work, so that's moving on. So it's a very busy time.
Okay. All right.
Lakefront Estates,
Who knows?
yes, that's just an ongoing
Is this something?
dilemma.
I heard something about that they might be allowed to put septics in there, or?
First few houses going in are coming in with this first treatment system. It's a fancy name for a septic tank.
It's a big bunker that they're gonna have to pump. They're gonna put like 4 houses to a bunker, right? Isn't that what it was?
But the effluent still goes out in the groundwater, so what have we approved? Septic tanks hold waste.
So they do still have drain fields then?
My
Or
understanding.
something.
But this is a Glades County Health Department issue, and
You're
I'm at
saying
a loss.
they have to pump it?
My understanding has gotta be pumped X amount of times there's some kind of regulation on pumping it.
Right.
Again, you know how that goes.
But
I
also
mean,
thought there was some kind of treatment process that they had to do as a part of that as well.
you hear, until we hear it from somebody that's actually doing it, it's all hearsay.
I've challenged the developer, said, how are you gonna build these things? You know, the Basin Management Action Plan for this says, here are your effluent limits that you have to meet. How is your engineer doing that? He said, it's all under.
You met him.
Yeah. So did you.
Yeah, I did.
He's your number one kind of guy. But it's just, it's bad. But we'll get to it.
All right. Only thing I'd like to bring up is we've got this survey coming in. These people come in and do the salary survey and all that. I think immediately we have to, as soon as we get that and get these pays, and including the number 2 and then who will be replacing John, we have to get, I think we're gonna have to go to a firm and hire an outside group to get out there and hunt for somebody to come in here. But again, we've got to get the pay established correctly so that we offer what pay and benefits offer is put out there correctly on the first go. What do you think?
That sounds good.
May I also add to that, another possibility is we had placed the assistant executive director on a number of search engines, Indeed and those. We did get a few response, so probably we would like to evaluate.
Yeah,
But those positions, as you talk about a headhunter, probably they could start with some of those as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind doing all that, but I think at the end of the day, we need somebody out there that has connections that does this, looking for us a person. I mean, and again, I just, and I don't mean to be derogatory by this statement, but I just run an ad on Indeed, and if I need a fry cook, there are a million of them out there. And I just run for an assistant manager at the car wash. So you're gonna get overwhelmed with applications. I mean, I was getting 18 to 20 a day off Indeed. And again, I've used Indeed for truck drivers when you're real specific about what you need and you have to have it narrows the search. So if we really word it correctly, I think it might narrow the search. But I think at the end of the day, we have to get aggressive on this as soon as we get our survey done. Okay? All right, meeting adjourned.
No,
Whoop. What you need, Harry?
I want to ask what the status of,
Okay. Harry never says anything.
remember the front, you asked me and I said I'd wait till the board comes?
There you go. I'm sorry, go ahead, Harry.
I want to know what the status of PFAS treatment and/or, monitoring is at the water plant. I mean,
Sure.
I think it's coming, but have we done anything with it yet?
We have implemented a sampling program for PFAS. We've already done it for the water plant, surface water plant.
Oh, okay.
I've expanded that to include the wells, the groundwater plant, because if we ever do need to use them, we need to know if that's
Sure.
showing up.
What's it look like at the water plant? I mean,
You know, it's a very small number, but before me telling, I'll just forward you the report. You can look at the numbers.
well, I don't think there are even any regulatory numbers yet, are there? But
They're values to report. There's nothing to compare it to. Are we below a threshold?
Right.
That's not gonna happen. But does it show up? Well, sure, it's gonna be there. Is that number, is it something to be worried about, or just say, yeah, it's in the water?
what are there reasonable treatment methods available that if
Absolutely not. Not reasonable, when you use that word. Are there treatment methods? Yes, but they're not reasonable. You're talking about ultrafiltration type deal. I mean, it's just very expensive. More than what we have right now.
I just wondered, I know we talked about this several months ago, and
It's being kicked around, it's being talked about, with implementation. I think I actually have the EPA webinar I have signed up today is for that, where they're headed with it.
Okay.
But it is out there.
I just thought it's important to stay on top of that, because I think there are some regulatory requirements probably coming down the pipe that.
Yes, there will be.
All right, that was all I wanted. Thank you.
Thank you for,
Okay, meeting adjourned. Sorry, Harry.